This is a Miami Sports Music Podcast Network production. This is the #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers, let's go.
I know the whole city riding. A little early, it's a bit surprising. Business moves, now we enterprising. Switch it up, now we improvise. Go to get in the winter column. Whole squad been trained to go. Fence for life, 234. Singing this just to work.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Stephen D, and we are live right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network, home of the #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Stephen D. We are live. What is up, man? What's going on, everybody? Super excited to be hanging out with y'all today. It is Thursday, February the 9th, and we got a great show lined up for you today. There's a lot of stuff to talk about from all over the sports world. We're going to talk NBA trade deadline. We're going to talk Roger Goodell presser. I really want to get into that play-by-play because there's just a lot of stuff that I want to talk about from the Roger Goodell presser that I think affects football in the future and how, we go forward. We're going to talk Zach Thomas getting into the Hall of Fame. We're going to find out tonight if our boy is getting into the Hall of Fame, which I'm super stoked about. We're going to talk about the potential nominees and how tonight should look. We're going to talk Allie, a.k.a. Dolph Freaky, a.k.a. 40, fan of the year. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk Butch Berry, the backlash of social media over the last 24 hours, actually the last 12, 18 hours, since Butch Berry has been named the new offensive line coach for the Miami Dolphins. And we're also going to talk, if we still have time later on in the show, Super Bowl logos and fields, how they've evolved, how they've been pretty bland, actually, over the last, 10 Super Bowls. And I'd love to see the Super Bowl, the unique Super Bowls logos come back. Just something fun to talk about. We'll get into all that. It is Clock Blockers. Want to say good morning to my family with a PH and my Finlaws. My name is Stephen Daniels. You can follow me on all social media at Stephen D SKPL. Spread kindness, positivity, and love. You can also follow Miami Sports Music everywhere at Miami Sports Music and on Twitter at MIA Sports Music. All right? Awesome. Want to remind you all to hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Hit it. Tap it. Hit the like button, y'all. Hit it. Make sure y'all hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel is very important. We can't grow without your help in getting more watchers and more listeners to this awesome, amazing morning show each and every day. So subscribing to the channel, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. If you want to help the channel grow in a monetary way, you can do it becoming a YouTube member. Okay, there's a couple different ways, but the best way is becoming a YouTube member. Why is that? Because subscribers are great, but if you like the show and you like the content and what we do on a week in, week out basis, on a day in, day out basis, actually here at the podcast network, sign up to become a member today. There are plenty of seats waiting at the table for you. If you are interested in signing up and joining to become a member, I would love to see you become part of, in my Vin Diesel voice, family. I'd love to get 3 new members signed up today. It's a big deal. I just put in the chat the link to sign up to become a member on YouTube. Very important. So make sure y'all do that. It's a big deal. So please sign up today, become a member. It helps the channel grow. It helps us kind of know the loyalty that we have as far as listenership and a lot of different things. So if you like or enjoy the program, there's 3 different tiers. You can choose whichever one suits you, but it's a big deal. It goes such a long way into helping the channel grow. Okay. The other way to help the channel grow monetarily is doing donations. Pretty much how I'm able to do the show on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, is with the help of you, the fans, by donating to the channel. This month has been the slowest month so far, so any and all donations help. Even if it's $1, it goes such a long way into helping the channel grow. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can use the YouTube Live Super Chat, which is the rectangle box with the $sign in the middle below the bottom of the chat. You can hit that. You can use a Super Chat or a Super Sticker. That's a good way to do it. If you're rewatching us and you're not watching us live right now, there's a thing called YouTube Super Thanks, which is a heart. and a $ in the middle right below the screen here if you're rewatching us and we're not live. You can hit that. It's called the YouTube Super Thanks. That's another way that you can donate. The other two ways that you're able to donate is using Cash App and PayPal. Use the QR code that's right on your screen or $MSM Podcast Network. They take out less fees than YouTube does, and it's such a big way to helping the channel grow, as well as PayPal, which is also MSM Podcast Network, or use the QR code that's right on your screen. I do want to remind you guys, we have a Super Bowl box going, and they are starting to fill up. We're pretty excited about it. $25 per box or block, whatever you want to call it. A portion of the proceeds will get donated to the Dolphins Cancer Challenge, which is great. You're starting to see the box. It's $25 per box. You pick your number, you send it through Cash App or PayPal. And when you send the number, make sure you put your box numbers and your name when you send it. That helps. At the end of each quarter, or end of the first quarter, halftime, end of the third quarter, and final score, there will be a winner. Once we get these boxes filled up, I will go ahead and get the numbers. But we're starting to get closer to the day. It's Thursday, and the Super Bowl is on Sunday, and I'm getting a little nervous that we're not going to get some of these boxes filled. So please donate your $25 per box, or however much you want to donate to get the box, as far as you want to get 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4. My little Dr. Seuss there. Make sure you guys donate and get your boxes, and it's going to a good cause. So make sure you all do that. Big deal. Okay. And you can do that anytime. PayPal and Cash App. And when you send the money, make sure you send the name and the box numbers. Okay. ZSM Sports. ZSM Sports is the #1 place to get your cards, jerseys, balls, and hard to find items. Make sure you guys follow ZSM Sports today to get all your cards, jerseys, balls, and hard to find items. They specialize in sports memorabilia. Absolutely amazing. They got a lot of autograph signings coming up. Zachary's absolutely amazing. So make sure you follow ZSM Sports today. Hangry Owls, good food, good mood, craft subs and salads. You want the #1 place in Pembroke Pines or in South Florida, period, to get the subs and desserts? Go to Hangry Owls. Give them a call at 305-279-5332. Vasasaur. We love Vasasaur. Born and raised, the official beer of Clock Blockers, a beer created for the fans, by the fans, just like this podcast network and this morning show. That was made for a fan. That was made by a fan for the fans. So make sure you guys do that today and go visit Vasasaur in Wynwood, Miami, Florida, the #1 place. They're throwing their own Super Bowl party. You guys need a place to go. Make sure you guys go to Vasasaur. They got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. A great place to sit.com. You need tickets to any of the latest concerts, sports, or theater events all across the world. A great place to sit.com is the place to go. Why is that? Because the price you see is the price you get. There's no extra service or ticket fees. So the price you see when you're searching is the price that you're going to get. And if you give them a call and use the code word DWA, you'll get an additional 5% off on your tickets. So make sure you all do that today. Last but not least, Tail Greeter. We love Tail Greeter. Why do we love Tail Greeter? Well, Tail Greeter is absolutely amazing. They do a lot of really, really cool stuff. But one of the things that they do really, really well is you can download the app today and get the app on your current Apple or Android device. But if you want to go to any of the most awesome tailgates across the country, look, it's Tail Greeter's the place to go. You can't go to a sporting event without going to a tailgate. And I'll tell y'all, next year, next football season, the Miami Sports Music and Tail Greeter are teaming up to bring you 3 of the hottest weekends in pro football if you're a Miami Dolphins fan. How is that? Well, if you're going to go to Washington, we're going to have the FedEx Takeover, which I'm super excited about. If you've never been to Washington, you want to go see the Commanders play the Dolphins next year, it'll be in Washington. We are going to put on an awesome Saturday night meet and greet, or whenever the game is, the meet and greet the night before and a tailgate the day of the game, which is going to be absolutely amazing. Philadelphia, we're going to do the Philly Finvasion. That's right, Miami Sports Music and Tail Greeter teaming up in Philadelphia to do the Philly Finvasion, which is going to be absolutely madness. Super excited about it. And just like we did this past year, we're going to do another version of the Baltimore Beatdown 2023. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and Tail Greeter's a big part of it. All right, I need to say something nice about Apple today. All right, I think I only got like 8 shows left to say something nice about Apple. So let's see here. Something nice about Apple. Man, Apple has amazing storage on their phones. You can store a lot of stuff with the memory that you can get on an Apple phone. You don't need to get a lot of extra storage because you can get, a lot of cool stuff. So there's something nice about Apple. There we go. All right. I got 8 more days of saying something nice about Apple, and then I'm done. Then I'm never saying that again. Team Android all the way. Okay. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed. That was the rundown. We got a great show lined up for you today. Like I said, we're going to be talking NBA trade deadline, Roger Goodell presser from yesterday, Zach Thomas's Hall of Fame, Ali Dolfreaky getting the fan of the year, Butch Berry Backlash, which I think, can't wait to get in that and talk about that with y'all. And we'll talk a little bit Super Bowl logos and fields of past Super Bowls. So yeah, let's kind of get into it. It is Clock Blockers. All right, NBA trade deadline, obviously fast approaching. A lot of trades have gone down in the last 12 hours. Some of them have even gone down in the last few hours. I'll get to the big ones here in a minute. One of the things that I was very, was interested to see is there was a lot of potential names that were moving around the NBA, and I didn't know what the Miami Heat were going to do. They traded Dwayne Dedmon out along with some cash, and I was like, okay, they're freeing up roster spots. They're freeing up a roster spot. They got to be going after somebody, and the rumor is Kyle Lowry might be on the move, although Jimmy Butler said at the end of yesterday, Jimmy Butler's like, Kyle Lowry's not going anywhere. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, but I can tell you right now, the news that I saw that when I woke up this morning, that Kevin Durant was traded out of Brooklyn into the Phoenix Suns, and he'll be playing with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. They're going to be a little scary, man. Phoenix is going to be scary. John Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies basically said yesterday, he's like, I don't care what they do in the West. The West is going to be us. You got to watch out for the West. The West is stacked with just loads of good teams. So, look, I was very surprised. Look, Brooklyn went out and got James Harden. They went out and got Kevin Durant, and they had Kyrie Irving, and they thought that they were going to be able to make some noise in the East. And for some reason, they just could not put it all together. They couldn't do it. They tried with Russell Westbrook, and then he went to the Lakers, who, by the way, he was traded yesterday from the Lakers, and that whole situation is crazy on itself too. So I mean, there's just a lot. I was watching LeBron obviously break the record the night before, and I was looking and I said, man, I'm very surprised to see Russell Westbrook playing as well as he has tonight, because I didn't think that there was good continuity between Russell and the Lakers. But I was like, well, they probably won't trade him. But Anthony Davis had 13 points, and I'm like, yeah. And then, seeing him on the bench with his face frowning, I was like, maybe Anthony Davis is the guy that's going to get traded from the Lakers. I don't know. But it ended up not being the case. D'Angelo Russell, obviously, going to, was it the Utah Jazz, I believe? And so it's very, very interesting. Darvin Ham, who's the head coach of the Lakers, and Russell obviously had a spat, and they just couldn't get along. And so, look, that's exactly what happened. Russell Westbrook went in a 3-team trade that involved the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Timberwolves. So just a lot of moves. D'Angelo Russell ends up going to the Lakers, along with Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt. Mike Conley was involved in the trade. Russell Westbrook was involved in the trade, and a buttload of picks were all involved in the trades. I don't know who else is out there for the Miami Heat to go after, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Josh Hart was somebody that I was interested in. But Josh Hart ends up going to the New York Knicks from the Portland Trail Blazers. So Josh Hart is reunited, with Cam Reddish or some of the other people that are there in New York. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Knicks do going down the line. But I don't know what else is out there for the Heat. I really don't. I don't know if there's any big players that are still out there for the Heat to go out there and snag and make a difference. But I can tell you right now, I'm not really sold on what they will do or won't do. Is D'Angelo Russell the guy that's going to make the make or break thing for the Lakers? Probably not. This is his second stint with the Lakers. There's a reason LeBron didn't want him in the beginning. So I don't know. I will say Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns is a huge trade deadline get for Phoenix. Chris Paul, Devin Booker. Phoenix was already a good team. Adding Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant wants to make a name for himself. You do it here. And by that, I mean, Kevin Durant obviously went to, the Golden State Warriors, won a couple championships with them. He didn't need to go there, and they didn't need him. But that's what it is. But look, I'll say the Heat messed up. Personal opinion. Heat didn't make any moves really. And I think that's going to hurt them when it comes to the Eastern Conference Finals, if they're lucky to get there. I know that they've had a strong team the past couple of years, but I just don't see how they stack up against anybody else. And even if they were to find a way to beat Boston or some other team in the East to get out of the East and go to the finals, I don't know if Heat are anywhere good enough to get anywhere close to some of these Western Conference teams. These Western Conference teams are stacked, just straight stacked. Here's what I will say. So I know it's not Hot Take Tuesday. LeBron James, obviously, I think this is his last year as a Laker. I think he gets traded in the offseason, personal opinion. He'll have one more year left on his deal. I think he'll say, I'll go ahead and get traded. And I'm going to make a hot take that I think LeBron goes back to the Miami Heat in the offseason. I thought long and hard about it. I think he'll play another year with the Heat. And then he'll wait to see where his boy goes. He'll wait to see where Bronny James goes. And I think that that'll be very interesting to kind of see. But my hot take for Thursday is LeBron ends up getting traded in this offseason. Just because I just kind of see where that's going to be at. I mean, the Lakers just haven't been any good, and I don't know if LeBron wants to finish his career. LeBron's not finishing his career as a Laker, and nor does he want to finish his career on a losing team like the Lakers right now. So, and I don't think D'Angelo Russell. Now, look, can they squeak their way into the playoffs with D'Angelo Russell? Maybe the play-in tournament, but I just don't see it. And again, the Heat, when it comes to the Miami Heat, they dropped the ball. They didn't go after anybody. There was a lot of people out there. D'Angelo Russell, any of the Brooklyn Nets were available at the time. Didn't do it. So it's interesting to kind of see where that goes for the Heat. And maybe, hey, look, 3 p.m. is the trade deadline. Maybe they pull off a miracle and go out and get somebody we all didn't think was available. That is plausible. Pat Riley's been known to do something crazy like that before. So, Kane's 1999, the Heat have cap space this summer, so be patient, bro. I don't know. We'll have to see what the Heat do. So that's my NBA trade deadline news. We'll keep an eye on it through Twitter. If you guys have thoughts about anything, look, I think what you're going to see is a Boston-Phoenix finals. Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns finals is what I predict. And I think Phoenix will probably prevail. I want to see Chris Paul get his ring. I'm not a Kevin Durant fan, but I do like Chris Paul, and I'd like to see him get a ring. So I think it'll be Phoenix Suns, Boston Celtics, NBA Finals this year. That's my prediction. All right, next up. Zach Thomas in the Hall of Fame. That's right. Tonight is NFL Honors. It's going to be a really, really, really good show coming up. This evening, we got two amazing people that are up for big honors. We got Zach Thomas, obviously, first and foremost. This is, his next time up for the Hall of Fame induction. And he's a finalist along with Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Rondé Barber, Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, Albert Lewis, Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, as I said, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, Reggie Wayne, Patrick Willis, and Darren Woodson. If you see the three names, Joe Thomas, Darrelle Revis, and Dwight Freeney, they are first-year finalists. Just looking at this list, to me, Zach Thomas obviously is already more than deserving to get on. His numbers prove that he should already be in the Hall of Fame, and I fully expect him to be in the Hall of Fame tonight. I think that is something that will definitely happen tonight. So we'll have to see what happens. If there is a snub in any way, shape, or form, and it ends up being Zach Thomas, I don't understand what the selection committee will think. Because how would you be able to leave out Zach Thomas with his numbers? He has better numbers than Brian Urlacher, who was a first ballot Hall of Famer, mind you. And neither one of them won a Super Bowl. So I don't understand how Zach Thomas is A, not already in, but B, looking at this list, I get that there's some cool people up here, some big names. But to me, Zach Thomas's numbers prove his worth, and he should be in the Hall of Fame. Couple of other people that I think I would love to see up there, Devin Hester, personally. I'd like to, the punt returner, the kickoff returner, that deserves some look. He was the best in the game. So I think Devin Hester should be up there as well. Torrey Holt, I think, will be up there. Kurt Warner was already in. And so my personal opinion, Torrey Holt will be in the Hall of Fame. And if you're asking me, another one, Darren Woodson will probably get in as well. Now, I'm sure Joe Thomas might have a good shot of getting in as a first ballot. But those are like 4 or 5 people that I think definitely get in. I'm very confident should get in. But we all know what about assumptions and confidence when it comes to the Hall of Fame committee for pro football. I don't know. But I think Torrey Holt gets in. Devin Hester gets in. I'd like to see Devin get in. Devin, I'm not as confident about, but he more than deserves to get in. And Zach Thomas, obviously, Joe Thomas, and Darren Woodson. I think I'm very confident in those guys getting in, minus Devin Hester. Andre Johnson is somebody who, he played for a long time, and his numbers are up there. But I broke it down a few weeks ago. Probably about a month and a half ago when the finalists were named. And we went and we broke down all the numbers, and we went through Andre Johnson's numbers and Torrey Holt's numbers and some of other current wide receivers that are in the NFL. I don't know if Andre gets in. Maybe he does, but it'll be interesting to see. But I think Torrey Holt should be in. Darrelle Revis will not be in. I'll be very surprised if Darrelle Revis get in. And I'll be semi-surprised if Freeney gets in. Dwight Freeney's numbers are there. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer, but I don't know if he deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think it's a big deal when you're a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like that, you get some clout. First ballot Hall of Famer. So I think Zach Thomas should have been. This is his, 3rd time up for the nomination as a finalist? Zach better get in this year. And if he doesn't, we need, we can make all the noise we want. It's not going to make a difference on him getting in, but I just don't see how you let him out this year. To me, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that happens, in my opinion. So we'll have to see. Let's see here. Let's go. Zach deserves to get in. Way overdue. Freeney was a monster on that D-line. Was Dwight Freeney good enough to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Manza? That's wait and see. Another thing that'll happen tonight that has nothing to do with Hall of Fame, at least with Canton, but does have to do with being the fan of the year. Captain Morgan's fan of the year, Allie, a.k.a. Dolfreaky, who's on her way to Phoenix as we speak. I think she's in the air now. And she will be there tonight for the NFL Fan of the Year honors presented by Captain Morgan. So look, I think that I hope that she gets it. Allie and I have talked profusely about this. Allie has the biggest social media following out of all the other finalists. She says she went through all the other social media people. She has the most following, and if it's really based on votes, which obviously up until yesterday you could vote for the Hall of Fame for Fan of the Year. There's no reason. Look, we Dolphin fans do one thing very, very well, and that is vote. And I was also looking on social media yesterday for fans and teams pushes to get fans in. And Allie, to me, had the biggest social media push out of all the other fans that were doing it. So I hope that she gets it. I think there's a good chance that she gets it. But we're going to cross our fingers and hold our breath, and we're going to see what's going to happen. We will find out tonight at NFL Honors, which I believe will be on NFL Network or ESPN. It's on NBC. It will be simulcasted on NFL Network and Peacock. Okay, and it'll start at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. NFL Honors. That's pretty late. That's a late start. 9 p.m. But NFL Network and Peacock. We will see if Allie gets in as Fan of the Year, and we'll see if Zach Thomas gets in as Hall of Fame, which he obviously deserves on many, many different levels. And I hope and pray that he gets it, because I don't want to have a conversation tomorrow about him not getting it or getting it or anything like that. So it'll be interesting. Megatil asked how many titles he got. They're talking about Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney has one. He won a Super Bowl with Indianapolis. So he's got one. We'll have to see. All right. Next up, Butch Berry. Butch Berry was signed as the offensive line coach yesterday. Right at the end of our show, we announced it here on Clock Blockers. He's the former Denver Broncos offensive line coach, former University of Maryland offensive line coach. And then there was proceeded to be a huge backlash of this. So he was also an assistant line coach in San Francisco, which is where McDaniel knows him from, which is why McDaniel obviously brought him in. So Butch Berry, being the former line coach for the Denver Broncos, everything that I've heard and seen on social media is the day he was fired, there's allegedly Bronco players applauded. They were so happy that he was gone. They did not like him in any way, shape, or form. They said he didn't. And again, this is all allegedly. This is all stuff that has allegedly been said. I don't know. I can't confirm if this is true. I'm just going based on what most 99% of social media has said. And they're basically saying they gave him a standing ovation. He got a standing ovation in the locker room after he got fired. Look, I'd like to think so far that McDaniel has been a very good judge of character. If this guy had this many issues, I would have to think that McDaniel knew about it. I look at my interactions on a professional level and who I've affiliated myself with and who I haven't. And I think one of the things that I always, to me, that means a lot is loyalty. I think if you're loyal to something, I'll always back you up and everything. And I always want to see the good in people. And I always want to see people succeed, especially who are loyal and decent at what they do. You don't have to be great at what you do, but you try hard, you put your head down, you do your job, and, the results may vary. But to me, that's that, if you're trying and you're putting your head down, and anytime I've asked you to do something, you've done it, I will see that. And I think the same thing goes for McDaniel with this Butch Berry situation. So he got a full year with San Francisco of him seeing where Butch Berry is. And so my thought is felt bad is the right word, but he wanted to see this guy get another chance. And he thinks that he can bring the best out of this guy. And maybe I can change the way he interacts with players, because I know how smart he is. He just maybe has an issue, talking with players or getting on their level or something like to that nature. And McDaniel maybe thinks that he can fix this. Do I like Butch Berry's resume? No, I don't. Not in any way, shape, or form. Do I like the results that have been there for the most part? There haven't been a lot of positives under his resume or his career. What I will say about Butch Berry is, so far from what I can see, is he's not a player's coach. The players don't like him. Supposedly there was a tweet, text between former Denver Bronco players talking about, holy cow, I can't believe he still has a job. How did he get a job with Miami? It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with him. The Dolphins have had 9 offensive line coaches in 10 years. For this to be the guy that supposedly is going to come in and change, the only reason I'm giving it hope is McDaniel, because McDaniel knows this guy personally. And if McDaniel thinks he can bring out the best of him at the moment, he's given me no reason not to think he's not a good judge of character. Now, if this guy comes in and starts out the same way he did in Denver and is totally what he was doing in Denver, then so be it. But I just hope and pray that we are not on 10 offensive line coaches and 11 years at the end of next season. And I have to admit, I definitely have my big reservations about this guy. Now, I can tell you yesterday, the Backlash, Dolphin fans were in an uproar that this guy was hired. Could not believe that he would hire a guy like this. How do you hire? We've had so many issues on the O-line. To me, there was definitely some interesting people that allegedly could have been out there. Former head coaches, Mike Munchak, maybe Joe Philbin, even. Although, I get the Philbin thing, and I'm not a huge Philbin fan as a head coach, but his track record as an offensive line coach is very good. This guy doesn't have the track record. He doesn't have the resume. All he has is 1 year of coaching with McDaniel. So McDaniel must see something in this guy that nobody else in the NFL sees for the most part. So look, if McDaniel thinks that he can change this guy, then so be it. And so that's my Butch Berry thing. He was here at the University of Miami for 4 years, an assistant. And it'll be interesting. G says, when there's smoke, there is fire. Talk. Can't work with people talk. It is what it is. Talk that keep firing coaches talk. I hope that's not the case. I hope that, again, like I just stated a minute ago, I in no way, shape, or form want the Miami Dolphins to be on 10 offensive line coaches in 11 years. I don't want that. I'm not a huge fan of this hire. But who am I to question McDaniel at the moment? At the end of next year, I'll be more than happy to question him a little bit more. But I have a difficult time questioning a first-year head coach. I have a difficult time. I've always said that when a head coach wants to bring in he got Fangio. Maybe the money got him. So be it. But he got Fangio. And so am I really gonna sit here and be upset that we didn't get the offensive line coach with the resume that was stellar? No. If he thinks that this guy's basic knowledge of how to make an offensive line better is good, he just needs better people skills, and I think that I can help him with that, so be it. And by the way, that's all allegedly. We don't know the exact ins and outs of the dynamics that he had in Denver. We just know from what reporters have said that the players in Denver did not like him. And that could have been a personality thing. We don't know. So Chef Shu says we should have gotten an experienced O-line coach. This to me is a bad signing. That's the thing. Here's the other thing too. And so Rick Spar said it's just an O-line coach. It's not just an O-line coach, Rick, and here's why. We've had 9 different offensive line coaches in 10 years. So this is a very important hire on many different levels. And so when you look at it, there's just a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things where they're looking at it and they're saying, hey, look, one place the Dolphins, and I'm talking about Dolphins fans in general. Dolphin fans are looking at this. We need to improve the O-line. Well, how do we do that? Well, I think it starts with coaching. Okay. Helping the players that are currently here get better, and also bringing in certain people that can help, stuff this up. It'll be interesting. Jose Valdez says, Steven, stop making things difficult. Butch knows the system McDaniel wants to implement. Who else was available that knows how to run that system? Jose, that's actually a fair point. That's a fair point. I'm not, and it's a good point. He knows McDaniel's system. He knows how to implement it. If he thinks that he can overcome the personality conflicts or the conflicts in the locker room, then that's McDaniel. So if this does not work out, he knew what he was getting with Butch. And if it doesn't work out between Butch and the players, that's on McDaniel. That's not on Butch. Because all the signs point that Butch can't work with people. And that's fair. But McDaniel also has a right to say, I like what he does. I know he knows my system. He can help me implement it, and I will help him with being a better, getting along with players better and learning how to be with, talking better to people, whatever the issue is. Jose's 100% spot on. 100% spot on. Let's see here. Steven, another San Francisco 49er on the coaching staff for McDaniel. I told you this is becoming predictable. I mean, that's not a bad thing, Cap. We're talking about a team that has consistently, I think they've made 4 out of the last 6 NFC championship games. I'm not mad at it. In no way, shape, or form. Gabriel Sosa, so we hired a white Flores. All right, so I know the knock on Flores is he couldn't get along with other people, but he's a head coach. Who's there to help him get along with other people? Nobody. Unless it's the GM who's got him under his wing, and we know that Carrier and Flores didn't get along. So McDaniel in this situation he's an offensive line coach. I can help move him forward in the personality department. Personally. Manalo says, better options out there for O-line coach. Shaking my head on this signing. And I don't blame you for thinking that. Rick Spar, I don't know 3 offensive line. I mean, Joe Philbin, Mike Munchak, not Bill Callahan. He was the former head coach of the Raiders. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but there's 3. 2.5, because I can't remember his name. It's the type of offense we're going to run, Trucker Sean said. I guess Jimmy G is next. I'm telling y'all, don't be surprised if Jimmy G comes to Miami. Y'all think I'm telling you, I think it's a good fit on a 1-year deal. I think it's a very good fit on a 1-year deal. What else we got? I was hoping to see Tennessee's O-line coach because he helped open up the run game and they did well under him. The Chef Jude's very interesting you talk about that, but we thought that the same thing, at least I did, and I think a lot of people did, about the previous offensive line coach, who came from Boston College and had a top 10 run game there, but it didn't translate. And is that because he didn't? And so he was a good offensive line coach. He obviously did. But if you don't understand the offense or the type of offense, maybe that's why he got rid of him. He's like, McDaniel in his mind, Chef, might have been, I need to bring an offensive line coach in here who understands and knows how to run my system and can help these offensive linemen run my system and coach them up to that level. And that's what he might think with bringing in Butch is, okay, this guy understands it. He knows what to do. I've seen him implement it in the past when he was with San Francisco. I know he knows how to run my offensive line. To me, that's more than enough for me to say, okay, that overcomes all the other BS. If you think, but if it comes down to it at the end of next year, that the offensive line and this guy aren't getting along and they're just not, there's friction and they're not even listening to him, which is what happened in Denver, allegedly, that's on McDaniel. Nobody else. Jimmy's going to be the backup in New England. Is going back to New England. Steven, you're just going by names as offensive coach, not recognizing the fact that those OC coaches run a different system. No, Jose, I'm actually agreeing with you. You don't. I agree with you. They understand. Butch understands his system. Butch Berry understands his system, wants to implement it, and can help him implement it. Chef Shu says, I get it, but we've been dealing with the O-line for the last 20 years now. The best years were in 08 and 16. They got to get this corrected for us before they make a deep playoff run. Fair. Understandable and fair. Okay? Understandable and fair. But what I will tell you is the last 20 years are not on McDaniel. And if McDaniel thinks that Butch Berry is somebody that can implement his offensive line better with the type of offense he wants to run, then so be it. Let it happen. Let it happen. Cat for Life says, McDaniel does not have the Rolodex, bro. He's calling his buddies to help him. Where's the experience? Flores did the same thing and got ripped for it. I think if you look at any successful coaching staff, it's about the people that you've worked with for a long period of time. Go look at Kyle Shanahan's or Sean McVay's or Bill Parcells in the past. Or hell, even Belichick. They're all people that they've worked with over the years. And that's got to start somewhere, Cap. And for me, or at least for McDaniel, he's like, I know this guy. I know his coaching technique. I know that he can run what I want to run. So be it. Go look at the numbers. Butch brought Denver top 10. Didn't Butch get fired after the head coach got fired? Yes. I believe so. I'm not sure. It's cool when they do it. It's a problem. F them, G says. Top 10 last season, Trucker Sean. Look, here's what I know. I'm not questioning McDaniel in this yet. He's not giving me a reason to question him. I will say that there's definitely a tight-lipped. Like, I'm going to keep a close eye on it. And if there ends up being another, I don't want to see another offensive line change for the next few years. Unless that guy goes out and gets an offensive coordinator job, I hope he's the offensive line coach for in the future. Where's the experience? Fangio, Bevel, Embry. There's not, but, he knows. All right. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. Make sure you guys hit the like button, donate to the channel, help the channel grow. All right, what I want to do now is NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell did a press conference yesterday. And I kind of want to break it down a few things. There's a few things he said yesterday that for me, I would love to, talk about a little bit. So we're going to listen to some of Roger Goodell's press conference. I'm going to stop here and there to talk about it. And then we're going to come back and then I'm going to open up the panel for you all to get on and we can talk more. But I want to go over the press conference for Roger Goodell a little bit, and then I'll open it up. We can talk Butch Berry. We can talk NBA trade deadline if you want. We can talk Zach Thomas Hall of Fame and everything. And then at the end of the day, we're going to go and just have a little bit of fun with Super Bowl logos in the fields and stuff like that at the end of the show. Von Joe says, morning, Stephen D. Now this Butch hiring is trash. We keep talking about the continuity, and this happens. We try to justify the BS, then complain about our O-line. The unit changes yearly. I understand, but this is McDaniel's second year. He saw something that didn't work. He got rid of it. He brought in somebody that knows his system and knows everything. So again, that's kind of where I'm at with him currently. All right, let me pull this in. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. What an incredible way to culminate this season. 2 #1 teams meeting here in Phoenix, and for the first time in 57 Super Bowls, 2 black quarterbacks starting this game. I really want to say thank you on behalf of my Amazon crew for letting us be a part of this season, our inaugural broadcast season. It was a fun one for all of us, and thanks for having me here today.
Well, thank you, Kaylee, for coming. You really made a big difference for us in Amazon this year. We are so excited about adding our first broadcast partner in some close to 30 years, and you all did a fantastic job. So thank you.
We appreciate that. Just to set the table here, as you look at the 2022 season on the whole, what's been the league's most significant achievement?
Wow, Kaylee, that's a big one. I would say we always start with the game. The game is really the most important thing for us. And I would say the quality of the game has never been better. We're so excited about the competition. I think 50% of our division winners and 50% of our playoff teams were new teams this year. The young players coming in are extraordinary, particularly at the quarterback position. I think that has an incredible strength to our future, ultimately. And we look at, when you look at the competition, it's really, you look at how our games this year, and you saw so many of them, teams came back from deficits they'd never come back before. So you can't ever turn a game off, which is fun for me and great for our fans. And so that's the biggest thing for us, is making sure that the game is great. And I have a bunch of other things I could add.
Hey, just, again, real quick, my goal is I want to get y'all's reaction to some of this stuff in the chat. Do you all think that the game, the NFL competition in general, is a better product than what we've seen in the past years? I think a majority of the NFL would actually disagree with Roger Goodell on this because, we play in a quote unquote flag happy league. You can't touch the quarterback. There's so many rules. I understand what the NFL is trying to do and obviously change their game and make it safer for players. But I'm very interested to know in the chat, do you all think that this is, do you think that the competition is better than it's ever been? Do you like the product that you see on a week in, week out basis on the field? Put it in the chat. I'll keep playing and I'll bring up your chats on the screen as we go along.
Yeah, it was fun for me working that wild card playoff game, watching the Jaguars fight back on that one. And this season, we saw the league have in place the measures to save a young man's life. When you look back on the Damar Hamlin crisis, so much has been said about the communication in that moment. And I know it was a horrifically unique moment. But looking back, is there anything you would change about the communication protocols that are in place in a moment like that?
Well, we always look to see what we can learn from any experience. The thing that I'm most proud about in that case was all the work that went into it prior to that happening. We have 30 medical professionals on the sidelines. We practice and rehearse the actual drills for that exact type of circumstance. We have the best of the best on the field, including expertise that were critical in that moment. And so, I told the owners later that week that the work that they have invested in by bringing in these great professionals, by bringing the best of the best, did contribute to saving a young man's life. And I'm incredibly proud of that. But I also believe, in more general, our medical professionals do an extraordinary job, and our players are getting the best care anywhere.
And just listening to some of this, I know that on this show, on panels that we've had in the past, some of you like to say, "Oh, the NFL is in general, it's a very political league." And so I listen to this press conference as we're listening to it, and I hear a lot of political answers, and from a standpoint of, hey, I'm covering my own butt to make sure I'm saying this correctly or in the right frame of mind. And so I want you guys to cut through the red tape and cut through the BS. Part of the reason I wanted to do this today is I wanted to gauge you, the fans, on how the reaction is when you hear Roger Goodell talk. Do you think he's talking out of his left side, out of his rear end? Or do you think, no, this is pretty accurate, this is on point, this is what it is? I do think that the game in general, as far as safety is concerned, they did, look, Damar Hamlin is alive today because of the safety professionals that they had on, the medical professionals that they had on the field. I will attest and agree to that, and I don't think anybody would. But I don't want to just talk to the casuals here. I want to talk to the real fans, which is what we have here on Clock Blockers every morning, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network.
And again, looking at the 2022 season in total, where do you see the biggest need for improvement in the league?
Well, we always look, you're talking the game specifically. We have some techniques that we've seen sort of develop through the season that we want to look at. There's a couple of that we think have led to injuries that we want to be cautious of and try to see if there's a way to remove those from the game. We still see elevated injuries, particularly concussions on special teams. We want to make sure that we're doing everything possible there. Rich, as chairman of the competition committee, we're the one league that goes back every year and reevaluates everything we do, whether it's a safety rule or whether it's a competitive rule, whether it's taking out techniques to make our game safer for our players. That's something we do every year. I think those will probably head the list this year. I'm sure there'll be some suggestions and proposals from some of our clubs, and we'll evaluate those through the competition committee, and we'll vote on anything in March.
I'm sure there will be follow-ups on some of those topics from people in this room. And before we open it up to the room, just one more question from me. Year after year at this event, you were asked about the lack of diversity, particularly among head coaches. Right now, if you look at the hiring cycle right now, you've had 5 head coach openings, 1 GM opening. Now you've got D'Amico Ryans in Houston, and then the Titans hired Fran Carthen there as their new GM. 2 of those head coaching jobs have gone to white men, and now you've got 2 more vacancies. I know that tremendous progress has been made in so many areas of the league for diversity and equity and inclusion. But I mean, last year you said at this same event that the league has fallen short by a long shot when it comes particularly to head coaching. You asked for the league to step back and look for solutions. So, I ask, have you seen any meaningful progress in this past year?
I do, but I still feel like there's better work and more work ahead of us. So I think that there's, progress, and we're, pleased to see progress, but it's never enough. We always look to sort of say, how can we do better? A number of the things we implemented last year have proven to be a direct beneficiary of some of the changes that occurred, including Rand Carthon and as the GM in Tennessee. He actually was introduced to the Titans at our accelerator program. And the accelerator program really helped, I think, our clubs as well as candidates get to know each other and to understand the incredible talent that's out there. So that's a program that we introduced last year. We're going to continue that. Our commitment's strong to that. But that's just one. We had a number of other programs that we've put in that I think are going to produce long-term results. Now, we all want short-term results, but it's important to have it be sustainable for the future. And we believe diversity makes us stronger. It's about attracting the best talent, giving them the opportunity to be successful. And to me, that's at the core of what we do. So we want the changes to be really fundamental and sound and sustainable.
All right, let me state a couple of things here. So as you all know, I'm a big, huge component of diversity, and I talk a lot about HBCUs on my show, and I'm a huge, I like what Deion Sanders did for Jackson State and HBCUs. And I think just in general, there just needs to be more diversity, period. One of the things that to me, and somebody, Rick just put it in the chat there. And until there's minority owners, people that actually get to, there are 32 teams in the NFL. There are 32 majority owners. And with the exception, I think, of Shad Khan, only one of them is a minority. Just one. So until there are minority owners, I don't think that you're ever going to get what they're looking for, which is an ultimate melting pot within the NFL. Here's what I will say, though. If I'm an owner, good, bad, or indifferent, and I want a certain person to be my coach, good, bad, or indifferent, I think there are some people out there that, if I wanted Sean Payton, I wanted Sean Payton. If I wanted Doug Peterson, I wanted Doug Peterson. And I don't know, I personally am not a huge fan of the Rooney Rule, personally. I think there's so many things that are wrong with it. But as far as diversity goes within the NFL, until they change diversity in ownership, I don't think you'll ever get diversity within the rest of the NFL the way it's supposed to be. I do think they're improving in ways. I think the accelerator program is something that's really good. But in general, you're not going to make any significant changes until there's a significant change in ownership. And I don't see that happening anytime soon, by the way. But I think that's the only way that you really get it at the end of the day. Personal opinion. So, all right, keep on going.
You also created the Diversity Advisory Committee. As they evaluated policies and procedures and data, what did you learn through that process about any impediments that may exist for ownership to hiring Black head coaches?
Yeah, one of the things we talked about, and that goes to your point earlier about stepping back, is to get others to step in and sort of look at what we're doing. And the Diversity Advisory Committee has been extraordinary. They've met with our owners directly. They've met with coaches. They have been working with everybody to try to understand what are we doing well, what are we not doing so well. And really, to date, there really hasn't been a point of saying this is not being done well. But it's really more of a, maybe you need to focus on some of the other programs that are actually providing the right kinds of benefits and the right kinds of opportunities, and step back from some of the other programs that really weren't working. So I think it's more of a focus on what are the key things that we should be focused on, and maybe not do some of the other programs that weren't providing the kind of benefits or opportunities that we'd hoped.
What I will say, just in general, and I'm going to bring in somebody here in a second. I think that, when, the Washington team is up for sale, or any of these other football teams go up for sale, I think that, minorities should be looked at first and foremost as the people that, if they have the opportunity to purchase a team, that they are. I think what you're seeing in sports now is not just because sport franchises are so expensive, is now you're seeing ownership groups, and ownership groups will have somebody at the head of the table that runs those ownership groups. We saw what the Miami Marlins did with Derek Jeter. That unfortunately didn't work out in whole, but again, I think that's what you're going to see moving forward with people or groups that are purchasing professional sports franchises, is you're going to see groups purchasing them, not just one particular owner anymore, because sport franchises are just ridiculously expensive. All right, let me bring in my co-host for the day. He had some stuff to do this morning. He's going to be on with me for the rest of the show. Like I said, we're going to go through a little bit more of this press conference with Roger Goodell. There were some things he talked about officiating I want to get into, and I want to get your spot on that. But let me bring in Mr. Cameron 954. Good morning, Cameron. How are you?
Good, Steve. How are you, man? Busy morning.
Good morning, man. So I don't know if I know you were busy. You had meetings this morning, but right now we're listening to Roger Goodell's Super Bowl press conference yesterday, and we're breaking it down kind of play by play. And we already been through the trade deadline this morning. We talked about Zach Thomas's Hall of Fame. Talked about the Butch backlash. But let's get through a little bit more of this press conference with Roger Goodell, and then we'll come back to some of this other stuff. All right?
Sure thing. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to open it up to the room. I hope I get paid off for giving the first question to this next person with homemade cookies. She is the woman who has been asked more questions, I think, than just about anybody this week. But now we will give Donna Kelsey the chance to ask a question of the commissioner.
Thanks a lot. Commissioner, I have a question. How do we get you on the New Heights podcast?
I have a good answer. Ask me.
Okay.
I'm in.
There you go. I'm asking. All right. I know how difficult it is in raising boys. I had 2 boys, and it was a taxing time. And I know that you grew up in a family with 5 boys. Were there any lessons that you learned from your mother in taking care of boys growing up?
Wow. Yeah, we were 5 boys in 7 years, Donna. And my mom was the biggest influence on my life by far. She reminds me a lot of you. She's had a great sense of humor.
I'm going to fast forward through this.
Hey, Roger, you talked about RAN and the accelerator program and the benefit of that. Fact is, over the last few hiring cycles, the league has made a lot of progress with hiring diverse candidates among the team presidents and general managers. Do you attribute that to the programs? Are you happy about that? And how do you make that translate to the coaching situation?
Yeah, I think it's ultimately a tribute to the candidates. and to our clubs, really looking at their processes and changing their processes to make sure they're identifying the best talent. Our committees work really hard on the process to make sure that the processes are diverse in the slate of candidates, but also they worked really hard to slow the process down so clubs have a chance to make those decisions and to consider candidates that they may not have considered in the past. The accelerator program is an opportunity for both the candidates and the clubs to get to know each other, to learn. They had separate programs as well as programs together. And I just feel that there's more of that that's needed ultimately. There's such great talent amongst coaches, amongst executives in our league and outside of our league. And we want to make sure we bring that in. So yes, I credit the programs, but ultimately the candidates in our clubs.
Hey, Roger. You spoke about concussions and player safety. We saw concussions highlighted this year in the forefront. We saw what happened with Tua. You've revised protocols. What more can be done, given it's a physical sport, it's a violent sport, without taking away from that?
Well, I think a lot of things we have done. So, changing the protocols, anytime we can change the protocols to make it safer for our players, we're going to do that. What we changed in October was something that we thought would give us a better opportunity to treat those conditions more conservatively, give the players an opportunity to get off the field and recover. And, I think that's also a reason why concussions went up this year, because we had a broader definition, a more conservative definition. We had, I think, an increase of 17% of evaluations. So if you have more evaluations, you're going to have more concussions. So, but I think there's more work to be done on helmets. We think that's a big area for us to focus on in how do we improve those helmets. Over the last few years, we've gotten our players to wear the best possible helmets and advance the technology there, so our players are safer with the equipment standpoint. And I think the other part of it is rules. Ultimately, you want to try to take that head out of the game. You're always going to have contacts that are not intended, and that's why you need the protection. But ultimately, you want the rules to make sure that you're avoiding the techniques that can lead to those types of injuries.
One of the things that he kind of just touched on and mentioned a little bit here, Cameron, was more evaluations this year to more concussions. That concussions obviously raised. In my opinion, I don't think concussions raised. I think what he said was kind of spot on. More evaluations happen. So by pure definition of them looking for it more this year, that number was raised. I don't think that the number of concussions in the game has increased. I just think they're looking for it more now. Do you agree with that?
I think he's bullshitting all of us. He knows exactly the rate of concussions go on a lot greater than what is reported. And a lot of those players walk around in practice during the week with concussions, knowingly, right? And so the league is stuck. They have to increase. It's all about money. They have to increase the amount of active players in a given week so they could absorb more of these players being recognized as having concussions and being replaced on game day during the game. And that's going to cost, owners money. And I'm telling you what, they don't want to come off the coin, right? They're not going to want to expand, because now you're going to have to pay another 10, 12, 14 players guaranteed contracts. They're not down with that. And so that's why they end up. So it's interesting because it all ties in with what the NFL Players Association said yesterday about combine, the risk of injury, right? And that's the big roadblock between negotiations between the owners and the players is the risk of injury and the long-term care that's being provided or not provided by the NFL to players now and beyond their careers.
100%. I think that the NFLPA has more say than they've ever had in the past in the history of the game. Look, do I like, I wish that we never saw the DeMar Hamlin situation. But the reality is the same way that when Dale Earnhardt died, NASCAR changed for the better and evolved and made a requirement to have the Hans device in those cars. the same thing with Hamlin. Hamlin's injury will hopefully lead to the NFL saying we have no choice but to look in the mirror and make sure that we're doing this the right way, because the last thing we want is a player on the field dying on national TV.
So the Hamlin injury is apples and oranges to concussions, right? Mm-hmm. Concussions happen every day. Hamlin's injury was really a freak coincidence of timing, of hit and timing meaning when his heart was in a certain rhythm and he got hit at that certain time. Concussions happen throughout the game all day, whether
in the game, at practice, or whatever, they happen.
You know, and you can't really compare it to NASCAR because they have this big, 3,000 pound, 5,000 pound piece of metal around them that they can construct, a safer environment. Mm-hmm. But they're still being, NFL football players are still being impacted the same way as a NASCAR would be hitting the wall at 200 miles per hour, 170 miles per hour. The collision 100%. Is very similar because you take away that protection. The only protection a player has is a fucking helmet.
And by the way, that helmet is heavier now than it's ever been. And these guys are faster and bigger and stronger. And so when you hit somebody at full force, it's a totally different, you're getting a different reaction. And there's no seatbelt to your brain like that. All of that, it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, there's got to be, we're at an impasse, I think. And I think the whole situation with Tua just show I think it just shone a light on the severity and the commonality of concussions in the NFL. So either you're going to have to really, the owners are going to have to step up the care day of game during the season and post-career, or this league, the alternative NFL football is not going to look the same 5-10 years from now.
I've said that, and I agree with you 100%.
They played flag
football for the Pro Bowl. And I've asked people this: do you think that's where the NFL is headed? And I think I might have even asked you that this year, and I don't know if it was you or whoever responded, said, no, I don't think we'll ever get to flag football, but look, if the Pro Bowl's there, it could be down the road. I hope not, but very well could be.
But it'll be a different game, right? And so you lose, and our society, like, listen, you go back to history of the Romans, right? In the Colosseum, you fill up the Colosseum because they want to see humans.
Blood. Yep. Gladiators that was a real thing. They wanted to see that. People like violence. Yep.
So we fill up a stadium of 65,000 people, and morbidly so, we want to see violent contact. We want to see exciting, action-packed plays.
The game's foundation was predicated and built upon violent hits.
100%. But this game has evolved, and not so much the game, and I think just the human species has evolved. We're bigger, faster, stronger. Elite athletes are being groomed at an age. My daughter's one of them, at an age where they're going to be bigger, faster, stronger at an earlier point of their time in their life, right?
Yep.
And it's going to come to the point where a decision has to be made. Either you take it for what it is, and you increase their pay, and you increase their care, and you increase the amount of aftercare, after career care, or it's going to be flag football.
Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. Stephen D and Cameron 954, we're here hosting with you this morning. Right now, we're going over the Roger Goodell press conference from the Super Bowl yesterday, because there's just a lot of things he ends up getting into that I want to discuss. The next question that's about to come up is about the sale of the Commanders. I just find, there's not a lot that he responds to, but, it is still something. So we'll just go ahead and move forward.
Roger, straight ahead. What are your expectations at this point on the potential sale of the Commanders? And also, when do you anticipate that Mary Jo White will complete her investigation and deliver a report to you?
I'll take those in reverse orders. And Mary Jo White, as I've said many times to you, that's there's no timeline given to Mary Jo White. She is authorized to work independently. There is no timeline for her to come to any conclusions. When she does that, she will let me know, and we will let the public know at that point in time. As far as the process, the Commanders are under a process. That's their process. Ultimately, if they reach a conclusion and have someone that'll be joining the ownership group or buying the team entirely, that's something that the ownership will look at.
One of the things that bothered me so much was just that second point, as he said, an option on the table is somebody to join the ownership group. Now, I understand Daniel Snyder, by all accounts, is technically no longer affiliated, but he is. And he's affiliated by his wife. And just that whole situation to me is the fact that he said somebody else joining the ownership group. Why does Daniel Snyder still have ownership stake in the NFL? It bothers me greatly.
Because it sets a precedent. If you have a section, a faction of owners wanting to go after another owner, it sets a precedent up where, listen, we're talking about the Shield. The Shield isn't a reference to the players. It's a reference to the freaking owners. And they guard that regardless of the situation. So Daniel Snyder has put the other owners in a position where a bad position, a negative light. And he clearly isn't fit to be an owner
at all.
But if they vote him out, that opens up Pandora's box down the line, and none of the current owners want anything to do with that.
Yeah, but let me interrupt to say they got Donald Sterling out of the NBA, and I think the only
we're not talking about the NBA.
Well, I think there's two big differences between Donald Sterling's NBA issue and the Daniel Snyder issue with the NFL. Number one, NFL franchises are so much more, like, the money is just so much more greater. You know, the Clippers, obviously, I mean, look, it's LA. They're still it's a very expensive team, but you know, the Commanders are what, $5 billion, $6 billion by all intents and purposes. And then Donald Sterling's issue was caught on tape. There's physical tape. There is no tape to go back, and there are allegations, and there is some proof, but nothing that's like tape that there's an audio video feel to it. They're just allegations that some have been confirmed, but still, you know, when there's smoke, there's fire, and it just bothers me that Daniel Snyder's still an owner in the NFL. But I agree. You know, I think the owners are if I do this and kick them out, I don't think they want them. They don't like them, but they know that if I do this, then people can look. It's the whole situation right now with Jerry Jones, right? They saw this picture of him, you know, 60 years ago, and they're bringing what from my past can come up, and you know, can the owners then turn it back on me and make me sell my franchise?
So Anthony brings up a really good point in the chat, and talking about the investigation that separately that the FBI and the IRS are conducting on Daniel Snyder. If he is taken to federal court and convicted, right? Like, criminal charges are pressed against him federally, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's out of the NFL's, you know, grasp. They can no longer govern what happens to Daniel Snyder. So they could say Daniel Snyder has to reduce his ownership and give his, like, a significant portion to, you know, a new owner that's approved, but they cannot force Daniel Snyder to sell completely the team. Even if he's in jail, like, even if he's in prison, it's still in his family's name. It's in the trust that he has.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. All right. Next, Roger Goodell talks about the NFL's international efforts, and he discusses playing a game in Germany.
Roger, how are you? I'm good. It's clear the NFL's international efforts are going to focus heavily on the UK and Germany again in 2023, with the games coming over to Europe. How far do you think that growth can go, given the success of those two markets, and how bold can the league be?
Well, Neil, I think you were with me when I talked about the division back when we were in London. And, the context of that, frankly, was the incredible support that we're getting for our game. Every time we play a game, whether it's in the UK or Germany, it's just extraordinary to see the reaction of the fans. When we went to Germany, which was after I saw you in London, I don't think any of us would have anticipated the kind of reaction we got there. For our first game there, and having been somebody who was involved with American football in Germany through the NFL since 1989, to me, it was really rewarding to see how our fan base has expanded. And we want to make NFL football a global sport. And I think we'll continue on this path. We broke every record around our international games this year, whether it was viewership or attendance. The excitement is just extraordinary. And so what our biggest challenge is, Neil, is how do we bottle that? How do we take that and how do we make NFL football a global sport? And we're well on our way. And I think we're going to put a lot of focus on that.
One of the things that a lot of fans have discussed, even on the show and in the chat, is will there ever be a team outside of the U.S. Going into the NFL, not including, Canada or Mexico? Do you think there'll be a team in London and whatever? My thought, my view on this, and I'd like your thought too, as long as the NFL does regular season games and they can bring in different teams over, I think that helps the sport and expands their sports to different markets. And I think there's also a way to do it now, having an odd number of games where, you used to have 8 home games and 8 away games. Now they alternate. So a year you'll have 9 home games and one year you'll have 8 home games. And I think that this actually helps people not, quote unquote, lose maybe a home game from an NFL standpoint or season ticket holders or anything like this. I don't think we'll ever see a permanent team. Some people said there might be a division over there. I don't see how that would work personally. You'd have to expand by 4 teams in order to do that. And I think the NFL is already diluted enough with the number of teams that it currently has. So I don't think you'll ever see a permanent team over there. I think if you did, you already would have seen Jacksonville move over to London. What do you think? Do you think there'll ever be a permanent team over there? Or you just think they'll keep on doing, games?
I don't want to say never. And I would think a permanent team would be situated on, in North America before, Mexico or Canada before it's in Europe. That said, Europe is a huge market and opportunity for the NFL. And I agree with you that at least in the foreseeable future, games keep getting moved over there. And I like the staggered schedule, allowing, teams to go over there more often. But I tell you this, we're going to go to Germany next year.
I believe that we're going to be in Germany next year too. All right. He goes on to talk about the schedule and Amazon. This is a little bit about that.
Hi, Roger. Last May, Amazon got what looked to be a strong schedule, but in the fall, viewership numbers didn't necessarily reflect that. What is the league plan?
Hold on. Caslin with a $5 donation says, this was the question I asked yesterday. He wanted it since he took over there. There will be 4 to 6 teams in Europe. He said that's the goal.
I'm sure sometime in the future that it's going to be happening, and I don't think
we're 10 years away from that. Easy.
I don't think we're concerned too much about diluting the league. I mean, you got the XFL.
Well, let me say something to that. I am, because here's we talk about the offensive line, right? I think that, are there quality starting, like if there's 5 offensive line to every NFL team, 5 times what, the 32 or whatever, is it 30 or 32? Whatever it is, 32. Look, that I'm bad at math, but that's a lot of offensive linemen. You mean to tell me that all of them are of quality, grade A, starting quality offensive linemen? You add 4 more teams or 2 more teams, you're adding additional positions where maybe a player who wouldn't be on an NFL roster now is on an NFL roster. And I don't know if the talent supports that.
You're adding stadium revenue. You're adding television revenue. You're adding.
I get the money situation. I'm talking about the product on the field. You add more teams, the product on the field gets hurt, my opinion. And you want to talk about player safety from a quarterback standpoint. What do you think? There's not 32 good starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Steven, has the NFL ever in his existence, in your existence, given you reason that they put players' safety first?
No, they haven't.
Okay, there's your answer.
All right, we'll go back to the question.
Roger. Last May, Amazon got what looked to be a strong schedule, but in the fall, viewership numbers didn't necessarily reflect that. What does the league plan to do to help Amazon continue to grow that audience? How does the NFL strike a balance between giving Amazon great games to help it grow and not giving those games to other media partners who might have an audience twice as big or larger?
Kelly, did you give him that question?
I did not. I did not.
Hey, Sam, let me step back for a second here. Because when we went to Amazon, we were going to a different platform intentionally. We understood that this was, in our view, a growing platform that was reaching fans that weren't watching football on traditional networks. And when we made that move, it was entirely to focus on being on that growing platform and reaching that younger demographic that really traditionally isn't watching on broadcast television. And it worked. It was exactly what we anticipated. There was absolutely zero reluctance or any negativity. We are overwhelmed, and Amazon is also, with the results of it. I think we reduced our average age of our audience almost 10 years. And that's exactly what we were looking for. And I think as you'll see Amazon broadcast.
Hold on, I'm going to pause it real quick. He said, and I pray that Major League Baseball is listening to Roger Goodell. By putting the product on Amazon, however, or on different platforms, not just Amazon, but other platforms besides CBS and Fox and NBC and ESPN, they made their, what did he say? As a result, we reduced our average age of our audience by almost 10 years by just putting it on a streaming platform. And I'm telling you, there's an importance to that. A lot of us, that listen to Miami Sports Music and Clock Blockers are, the average demographic, I think, is 34 to 45-year-old, or excuse me, 24 to 35-year-olds is the average demographic on my channel. Now, with that being said, I look at that and I say, I have the morning show. I try to have, the non-swear jar and stuff like that. But, I think the same goes in. More younger generation is going. How do we get the younger fans? I look at my soon to be 9-year-old son here in a couple of days, and I look at my daughter who's 7 years old. I want them to be Dolphin fans forever, but it's not just on me as a diehard fan to do that. The game has to get it to them, and that means getting on YouTube, getting on Amazon. Just real quick, what are your thoughts about that? And side note, real quick, baseball needs to learn from the NFL, right?
Well, the side note first, the baseball, I'm sure, looks at it in envy, but the way the baseball is set up, each baseball team negotiates their own media contract, right? Yep. Marquee, Sun Sports, whatever it is. Yep. Valley. The NFL negotiates for the owners. So that's a whole different ballgame. And you saw Major League Baseball dip its toe, I think is the appropriate description, into the YouTube platform last year. And I think you'll see more of that. I think you'll see teams going that route more so. They did it with Apple TV as well.
Yep, Apple had games last year. Yep.
Yeah, and the results were fantastic. They were quality broadcasts. They brought a new edge to the broadcast, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm sure the demographics younger than myself did as well. But I think it absolutely is a wave of the future. And someone in the chat said, 10, 15 minutes ago, like, is it a conflict of interest to have Jeff Bezos as a potential owner of an NFL franchise when he's undoubtedly going to be given the contract for Amazon TV for broadcast rights of the NFL?
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason why Jeff Bezos probably isn't currently an owner, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yes. starting next year and the year after, their production quality was extraordinary. Their talent was extraordinary too. But in addition to that, I think you're going to see people be able to interact with the game differently than you can on broadcast television.
Analo, you're right.
Two-way, more technology that's going to give you a different experience, and you'll watch football differently than you will in the past. And I think that's what's exciting about new partners. And that's when we were looking forward to our Sunday ticket package at YouTube. They will change the experience for people who have the Sunday ticket package. They will innovate. They'll create new ways to engage with their fans. They'll be younger. It'll be more accessible for our fans on a global basis. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And I think both of those partnerships are the future for us. But we also believe very much in our business partners and our network models today. They are the biggest platform still. The most people watch them on our platforms. And we ended up being 47 of the top 50 shows. I think the other two were both football events. And then the third one was still the Macy Day Thanksgiving. So I think what our job is to make sure we make football as available as possible on the widest platforms and the best possible platforms where everyone can reach our fans. And that's Amazon's a great example of that, and YouTube coming along.
Well, and you're now entering into this 10-year broadcast rights deal, right, with your partners coming up starting in 2023. So how else can you continue to grow that presence on streaming? I know there was just the DAZN deal for international rights. You mentioned Google YouTube. What other opportunities can you, within the confines that you're set in now?
Well, in some cases, it's with our broadcast partners. So Peacock is a big initiative. So we look at the digital platforms that our partners currently have and how can we continue to help build that. ESPN Plus, I believe, in the first year here, will have an exclusive game this year. That will be an extraordinary opportunity to grow that platform and to grow subscribers so more fans can experience NFL football.
Did you hear that? ESPN Plus is going to have their own game next year.
That's how we look to support the digital platforms as well as the traditional linear platforms, which have been great to us and will continue to be great to us. But for us to reach fans that aren't on those platforms, we need to go into these other territories. And, Sam, you did also touch on scheduling, which I should. This is the first year of our new deals that we'll have flexible scheduling on Monday night. So we'll have flexible scheduling on Sundays and Mondays. It wouldn't at all surprise me at some point that we have it on Thursdays at some stage, but not today. But it will certainly be something that'll be in our horizon.
All right, we got to talk about this. So here's my when I heard this yesterday and I heard that the flex scheduling can come for Monday night fans, we talk about what we're doing in Miami Sports Music and Tail Greeter this year in Washington at the FedEx Takeover, in Philadelphia the Philly Finvasion, and Baltimore with the Baltimore Beatdown. You and I and look, we put a lot of work into these tailgates on a week in, week out basis. And if they start flexing games on days, that's going to be an interesting move for how people travel to games, on how they go about doing it. I had a big issue when I heard the Monday night thing because I'm like, people that fly down, they fly out on Monday morning. But if they're going to start saying that they're going to flex games from Sunday to Monday, there's an issue with me for that. I don't like that as a fan who's traveling down for the games.
So believe me, they've done the research, and it's funny. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. They've been flexing games now for 3 or 4 years, and they haven't lost any people to the games.
There's a big difference between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. There's a whole other difference when it's from Monday to Tuesday or Sunday to Monday.
And the people who bought those tickets for 1 p.m. games and can't make the 8 p.m. games sell those tickets to people who can. It's a big. I mean, if you look at the NFL-driven resale ticket site, that's a big reason why it's there. And with today's, flexibility of hotel schedules, and listen, the pandemic has a lot to do with this and how people go to work nowadays remotely. It's a lot easier to take a day off or work from a hotel room on a Monday when you're supposed to be in an office as opposed to pre-pandemic. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. I mean, that's true. And you think the NFL took all of this into account?
100%.
We can easily move Sunday games to Monday.
100%. There is going to be a market for that Monday game, regardless of the Sunday person. Like they're going to fill up Hard Rock Stadium on Monday or Sunday or Thursday or Saturday, regardless. Because I'm a season ticket holder. If I can't go to a game, I'm going to sell that ticket.
Flex games moving from time slots on one day is an entire thing. It's an entire thing on
I get it. It's not good for fans. It's not good for fans if you looked at it objectively, what's good for Steven might not be good for Cameron.
Yeah, but so there's got to be rules to this, right? Like, so if they're going to move day, so for example, I think right now 2 weeks is the earliest you can flex a game from Sunday night. Like, I think it's 12 or 13 days. I'd like to think that in order to move days, they need to give people a month. You need to have, like, if you're going to move a day game to a whole other day, you got to give me a month's notice. 21 days minimum.
Listen, I was in this situation last year when they moved the Sunday game to Saturday, right? Not this past year, not this past season, but the season before, the 2021 season. And it was the last game of the year. And they moved it from Sunday to Saturday.
Those games have TBD next to them, right? They have TBD next to them. So I want to know how this is going to work. Are they going to say, okay, from weeks 13 to 17, we are going to say that like, for example, this year, I think there was remember when they first started doing it, they had only certain weeks could be flexed. Like the first 8 weeks were correct, right? I got to think that the same thing's probably going to come into event. ESPN will say, hey, the first 8 weeks we're going to do this, but weeks 9 through whatever, you can get flexed. And to the point and to the level of competition, I got to think they say, okay, you got to think people are flying, people are getting hotels are getting booked up. I think that they could if they don't give fans more than enough time, if I buy a hotel for a Sunday game and I fly down Saturday and I'm checking out Monday, but they move my Sunday game to Monday night, but there's a convention in town that weekend and now I can't get the hotel room for the extra night.
You'll make it. If you want to go to that game bad enough, you'll find a way.
I think the NFL setting themselves up if they don't do it the right way, and I don't know what that way is. I want to know more. I'm very interested.
I disagree with you. There's going to be fans filling those seats regardless, and don't think it's going to be like they're going to play to a half full Monday night fucking stadium crowd. Are you kidding me? That if they move a Sunday game to a Monday night game, there's going to be more demand for that Monday night game.
Well, it'll be interesting nonetheless.
Especially in Miami, just talking about Miami. I mean, as front running as our local crowd, people don't care about work. They'd rather be seen. And where else to be seen than Hard Rock Stadium on a Monday night?
NFL, like any big corporation, will test the limits of their arrogance for sure. You got the okay. No, I mean you're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, let me bring this up.
Hey Roger, Ben Boland from the Boston Globe. I'm tempted to ask you another Deflategate question since we're at the place where it all began 8 years ago. But on a more serious note, because concussions were up, I believe 18% in the regular season this year, does the NFL need to reconsider whether a 17 game schedule is appropriate? And certainly, do you need to reconsider any thoughts of moving to 18 games in the future?
Well, Ben, a couple of specific questions or points that I would make. First off, injuries were down 6% this year, total injuries. And we think that is an incredible positive reinforcement of some of the changes we're making, both to the preseason, the offseason training, but most importantly, training camp period, where we're escalating the level of intensity over a number of weeks. But also the rules that we put in during the season. Also, I would say on week 18, the injury rate is absolutely no different than any other week. So I'm not sure I accept that your premise that we need to reevaluate that. We always look at the injury rates. As you know, you guys asked for many years questions about Thursday night football. That injury rate continues to be no different than a game on Sunday. So I think it's hard to draw conclusions from 1 year. As I mentioned to the question earlier, I think there's some specific reasons to why the concussion rate is up this year. Number one, the definition of concussions changed during the season. We had more evaluations. That's going to lead to more recorded concussions. And we don't want concussions to occur. We want to prevent them. We want to treat them, but we're not afraid of having them be diagnosed. That's something that's really important for us, and why we encourage players and coaches and everyone else to come forward when they have symptoms, so we can deal with those medically and make sure that they're handled professionally.
Hey, Roger, Jim Trotter, NFL Media. You and other league officials have said that the league's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion extend beyond the sidelines and beyond the front offices, and is applied to all aspects of the company. I've worked in NFL media for 5 years. During those 5 years, we have never had a Black person in senior management in our newsroom. That's a problem because we cover a league who, according to league data, the player population is 60 to 70% Black, which means that there is no one who looks like these players at the table when decisions are being made about how they are covered. More concerning is that for a year plus now, we have never had a full-time Black employee on the news desk, which again is a problem because we cover a league whose player population is 60 to 70% Black, according to league data. I asked you about these things last year, and what you told me is that the league had fallen short and you were going to review all of your policies and practices to try and improve this. And yet a year later, nothing has changed.
Jim Trotter calling him out. I love it.
Once said that I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. And so I would ask you as an employee, when are we in the newsroom going to have a Black person in senior management, and when will we have a full-time Black employee on the news desk?
Well, Jim, I am not in charge of the newsroom. So I think can I answer your question? You point out the same question you asked last year. And we did go back and we have reviewed everything we've been doing across the league. And we are looking at everything.
Jim's going to find himself covering Saskatchewan Canadian Football League next season.
I love that he put him on the hot plate.
Diversity just this year. And I'm not specific, do not know specifically about the media business. We'll check in again with our people, but I am comfortable that we made significant progress across the league. I can't answer the specific questions. Some of the data you may have raised there may be accurate, maybe not. Last year, I was told some of it wasn't. We'll get to you on that. We want to make progress across the board, and that includes in the media room. And so those are things that we'll continue to look at and hopefully make real progress to. I can't answer because I do not know specifically what those numbers are today.
Hold on. So he didn't answer the question at all. Let me just throw that out there.
Well, and initially he absolved himself for responsibility. He said, "Well, I don't manage the NFL media." Bullshit.
Jim Trotter, you're right. He probably will be covering the CFL this year, the XFL. But look, that's the type of questions that I want to see at the Super Bowl press conference. We talk all the time about how we don't get to see Stephen Ross but once every 3 years. And when we do, there's softball questions because it's the only people that can ask are people that are beat writers that cover the team, and they have so many rules that they can ask. I'd like to see fans get an hour with Stephen Ross. Give me an hour with Stephen Ross. I will allow. I'll review the questions, but I will go through and I will take 25 questions. If you get Stephen Ross to come up here or more, and I'll let fans come up one at a time and ask questions to Stephen Ross and put him on the hot seat. That's the type of stuff I want to see. I want a
town hall meeting with the owner.
Say what?
The old town hall meeting with the owner.
That's what needs to happen. And I think that Jim Trotter asking a question like I'm going to be tweeting Jim Trotter after this and saying, "Hey man, you killed it. Like, that is a great question. Way to put him on the hot seat. He ran from it. He didn't answer it, but I love the question, and I want to see more questions like that."
Yeah.
Hey, Roger.
We just had the Pro Bowl games in Las Vegas. Wanted to get your thoughts about how that transpired and if the future location has been picked for that. And then next year at this time we'll be in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. Based off, the Pro Bowl and the draft already held there, how big can the Las Vegas Super Bowl be?
I guess in the last point, and I'll make sure I come back to the Pro Bowl. I think I'd be making a mistake underestimating anything that happens in Vegas and how big it can be. The draft was extraordinary for us. The Pro Bowl last week was incredibly well done. We had 52,000 people there, paying customers that really enjoyed the experience. They wrapped their arms around this event. I think the players loved being there and their families. I think it was a great.
Camp for Life is wrong. I would love to get an hour, 10 minutes, an hour with Stephen Ross. I'd put him on the hot seat.
The time you step up on the yacht.
To me,
I'd put him on the hot seat. Give me 10 minutes with Stephen Ross. I'd put him on the hot seat.
We had to make a determination that the Pro Bowl in its current state last year was not something that represented the NFL well. And I've talked about that many times. We made the pivot to say we're not going to play this game in the same context. And in fact, I think it was Russell Wilson who called me the Tuesday afterward and said, let's play a flag game. And our team, and I give our team, Peter O'Reilly and so many others in our organization, incredible kudos for reevaluating everything we did there and coming up with a concept that our players loved, that they were part of making those changes. And when I was there on Thursday, the players were just they were wonderful. They loved it. They were embracing it. They thought this was a great forum. I loved watching it because you got to see the players' personality. You got to see their faces. You got to see them compete. They loved the flag game. So I think we have a lot to build on there. And I don't see us going back in any way. I think this is the future for us. Flag is such an important initiative for us. With boys, girls, men, and women.
It's the safest way to grow their game. It's the safest. I'm not letting my kid play.
With flag football. And so we've seen a lot of the people that have participated in that and how they're embracing that. And seeing NFL players do that, I think is just going to help launch us even faster.
Hello, Commissioner. Over this side, to your left. As we all know, there won't be a international game played in Mexico this year, so many fans are wondering what plans are there in place for the NFL for Mexico in 2024 and beyond.
Well, for those who may not know, the reason we're not going to be in Mexico is not because of the lack of support or our desire to be there. It's because the stadium is going to be renovated for the World Cup. So when that stadium is completed and we can come back, we're coming back. Mexico is one of the places we want to continue to play. The fans there are just amazing. And so we'll be back.
I want the Dolphins to play there so we can go hang out with the Dolphins Nation Mexico crew.
That would be so awesome.
Oh, here. Hey, Commissioner. Thank you. Just a question about just players with big personalities and the league embracing that kind of thing. Guys like Travis Kelce and some of the other big personalities that are out there, and the importance of just having that and guys like that to having the freedom to express themselves.
Well, I think it's great. Don is responsible for that on 2 counts, and the personality of these guys and how they express it makes it special. I think it makes it's something for our fans to connect with. And it's another reason why I thought the Pro Bowl was a great opportunity so our fans could actually get to know the personalities of our individual players, who they are. And I've said this many times. As a group, our players are the most extraordinary young men I've ever met. Not just because of their talents on the field, but what they do in their communities. They're active. Their families are active. They're trying to make their communities better. They use their platforms for good. They use their platforms to bring people together. And to me, I'm incredibly proud of what they are. So the more people see who these men are, the better for us as the NFL, because I think they're why people root for the game ultimately, and I think they make a huge difference.
Roger over here, Ken Belson, New York Times. The day after DeMar Hamlin was revived on the field, Troy Vincent was asked about benefits for retired players, and he said that DeMar would be taken care of. But hundreds
That
of
could be more than
thousands of
steak,
retired
bro.
players are denied benefits.
Steak and
under the
lobster.
collectively
I can't be. I
bargained
can't be
plan. I
bought.
just wonder how
Okay.
you.
You were bought
Ken,
with two lobsters in Hollywood.
First, you have to start back again. So our player
They were great
compensation
lobsters,
this
too.
year is $10 billion. That's in salary, bonuses, but also in
$10
benefits.
billion in
7.5
players'
billion of that
compensation this year.
is in benefits. It's a program
Drop in the
that
bucket
we
for the owners.
collectively bargained with our union.
$10 billion.
We have improved that in almost every CBA since I think the early 90s. I think the benefits are extraordinary for our players. But as you know, it's a defined benefit plan also. A defined benefit plan operates under governmental law. And we have to obviously have a system to be able to identify who qualifies for those benefits and who doesn't qualify for those benefits. And that's done with the union and management. And the facts are that's done independently with doctors who make a determination of whether the benefit.
The NFL made
and an
$2 billion
individual qualifies under
in
that
just
program.
TV revenue.
So you don't want people to benefit from it that don't qualify
Just
for it.
TV
It
revenue.
takes away from people who do qualify for it. So you're always going to have people who may think they qualify for it. Doctors disagree. The joint board disagrees. That's the way the system works. But I would tell you the benefits in the NFL are off the charts.
Roger, Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. There was a consequential third down that was replayed in the AFC Championship game, and it's been reported that that was due to intervention from the league office. There have been various points during the course of the season where critical voices have raised issues with officiating. Mike Vrabel, during what was essentially a league-wide email in October, Tony Dungy, most recently Aaron Rodgers has questioned a talent drain of officials heading to network TV. Are these voices resonating with you, and do you see this as something that needs to be addressed going into this offseason, how the league is handling the talent and process of officials?
The talent, what do you mean?
There have been multiple officials that have left the league to go to network television jobs. This was something that was most recently raised by Aaron Rodgers, individuals with experience. He has questioned, is the NFL paying officials enough to stay in the league? And also there have been questions raised about just the general training and overall level of officiating in the league.
Well, I would disagree with several of the points you're making in there. So, yes, we listen to all the voices. Let's just start with that point. But we like to go to the facts, ultimately. So just to take your point, are we losing people from the field to the booth? There are some that never even officiated on the NFL field. And so we didn't lose anyone. May have lost them from our office, but we didn't lose them from officiating on the field. Others are taking on that responsibility at the end of their careers. So I do not think that's a factor at all, zero. I think for us, when you look at officiating, I don't think it's ever been better in the league. There are over 42,000 plays in a season, multiple infractions.
He is stupid right now.
Take that out and extrapolate that. That's hundreds, if not
Want me to
millions
pause?
of potential fouls.
You don't have to be watching the
do an
game.
extraordinary job of getting those. Are there mistakes in the context of that? Yes. They are not perfect, and officiating never will. But we've also had, obviously, replay and other aspects that help us address those issues to make sure they're not something that we can't correct on the field. Communications between our office, that is not the case. In the championship game, that was stopped appropriately because the clock was running by an official on the field. That happens frequently in our game. That's not an unusual thing to have that happen. So again, we want to go back and look at the facts. We may not disagree. We may not agree with every TV announcer or every officiating expert, but we think our officials are doing a great job. But we're always going to look through our competition committee and everything else we have, how we improve our officiating. But it will never be perfect. In addition, I think we all have to realize through the quality of what we see on our broadcasts, you've never been able to see the kinds of things that you can see today. and you see it in super slow-mo. You see it where you can actually stop it. Sometimes that distorts a call potentially, but the reality is our officials are held to an incredibly high standard, and I think they meet it. Will we try to get better? You betcha.
Go ahead, man. What spoke to you? You sounded agitated listening to that.
I mean,
Cameron?
listen, it's to the naked eye, right? He's yeah, I'm here.
Go
he's
ahead.
Spitting, stats. He's spitting stats out. He's spitting stats out to support his his stance on officiating. But to the naked eye, to fans, it's never been more egregious and deficient, right? Like it's impacting games.
Let me play devil's advocate. Is that because of social media? Is that because during the course of a game, we can hear a million people talking because of social media allowing that voice to be loud?
I think we've become complacent, and the NFL is good with a certain level of officiating, right? Like we could give them a B minus, C plus grade average. I think there's officiating teams that are better than others, and I think there needs to be more consistency. Number one, and that consistency needs to be at a greater level throughout the league.
Go ahead.
No, and he's up there saying that the officiating has never been better, and I disagree, man.
Watching the game on look, I watched start to finish every Miami Dolphins game this year, preseason, postseason, regular season. And I watch a lot of football games, period, and a lot of them from start to finish. And here's what I'll say. When I'm watching a game and I don't have a horse in the race, right? I'm not rooting specifically for any one team or anybody. I will say that we'll sit there, with my wife or my friend, whoever's there, and we're always like, oh man, that's a bad call. Or, hey, I think there's two things to this. I think that social media does play a part in how loud the fans are and voicing egregious errors. I think another reason for it is the gambling aspect to it. Fans want as close to perfection on officiating as you can get, especially when money is on the line. Okay? I think that in order for the NFL not to have an NBA Tim Donaghy or whatever the official's name was, it Donaghy? Was that his name?
Donaghy,
yeah. To have it, they need to pay all of their officials very, very well. They all need to be full-time employees. And I think that's how you make the game better, and you allow for issues like what happened in the NBA to happen, right? I think those things need to happen. I think these officials need to be getting compensated very, very well, more than what they're getting paid now. And I think that would help move things along and making things more official. And I think it would also allow the NFL to say, hey, we're paying you a lot of money. You're making some pretty crap calls. You need to do better. And I think it would move things along on both ends of the spectrum. But until that happens, I think you're going to get what you're going to get, which is C plus, B minus officiating. You're going to get some calls here and there. There are going to be some people that are more egregious than others. We know, when certain officials are there, they might be calling holding more. They might be calling, pass interference more. Or they might let things go because both teams are doing it. I think the one thing, until that changes, I just want to see consistency from officials. If you're going to call something, call it for both teams. If you're going to call a pass interference on that, you better do it when it happens, because it happens on the other side of the field down somewhere else in that game. Be consistent. And I understand that you, as an official, can't see everything on the field, but you got to do better. And they have enough officials on the field that they should have a vantage point of every single person of every single play. There's 6 officiate? And the Super Bowl, there's going to be 15, 12 or 15.
They're going to have the same amount for every game as they do a normal game. The Super Bowl as they do a normal game. But I hope somebody asked him, and I didn't watch the full interview. I hope someone asked him about the expanding partnerships with online gambling sites, with Las Vegas influence, period. I mean, we've got full shows on major networks now that do nothing but talk about handicapping.
100%. 100%. All right, let's keep it going. We're almost done here. There's a few more minutes left.
Hi, over here, John Oran, Sports Business Journal. When the league first started negotiating the Sunday ticket package, it also had talks with media companies and others about buying an equity stake in NFL media, NFL Network, NFL.com, and whatnot. When you did the deal with YouTube for Sunday Ticket, the NFL media was not a part of that. Where does that stand now? Is that still on the market? Has that been taken off the market?
Well, I wouldn't say, John, that it was ever on the market. I would have take a different position on that. What we said a year ago and what we've done is explore every alternative and every relationship that could advance our rights on Sunday Ticket and that partnership, but also could our other aspects of our O&O media assets be involved? Could that also help elevate in some fashion the relationship? We explored every one of those. We had some huge opportunities that we were excited by, but at the end of the day, we felt YouTube was the right opportunity for us. Again, it was focused on the right demographics. We think they're going to bring extraordinary innovation. We're really pleased at how they saw this in the context of their overall strategy to build not only their channels business, but also YouTube. And for us, we think it's the absolute right partner. Will we continue to talk to people about our media assets? Absolutely. We will look at every opportunity to try to expand our media assets, how to make them stronger, and how to reach more fans with them.
Good afternoon, Mr. Goodell. Herbie Tealby with the Kansas City Star. You mentioned fan exposure, and my question is a two-part question here. Since the draft started rotating, how pleased are you with the extra exposure, and how has it boosted it? And then two, with the draft coming to Kansas City, what are you expecting from the folks in KC?
Great barbecues is the answer to your last question. I can't wait. One of my favorite things is coming to a Kansas City game and opening the
Probably the
windows
smartest thing
and
he
coming
said
in
this
and
whole press
smelling that
conference.
barbecue. It's the best. So, but
He just
I
pissed
always
off everyone
say
from Texas and
moving the draft around
Alabama
was
and,
one of our more
North
significant
Carolina.
moves because, again, it brought the game closer to our fans. It's another way for them to interact with one of our events. And, you know, Kansas City is going to be a great host, but the key for them is to do it Kansas City style. I think every city that has the opportunity to host this has to look at it as how can they make this reflect on their community in a positive way to millions of people all over the nation as well as the globe. And how do they use this platform to advance their communities and their passion in their communities? And Kansas City has got incredible, passionate fans and a great community. So I have no doubt, and I've heard a lot of the plans, but you know, we'll obviously focus on that in the next couple of months, that they're going to do an extraordinary job. And the fans that will be coming into town will get a little better understanding of that passion in Kansas City. And I think that's great for our event, but it's also great for football.
All right, let me just say something on this real quick. As somebody who attended the NFL draft when it was in New York City twice, I went there twice. I met my wife years ago at Buffalo Wild Wings, and Buffalo Wild Wings used to have this partnership with Coors Light where they would do, it's called Best Seat in the House. I don't know if you remember this marketing promotion ordeal that they had, and basically was you go watch a game on Monday nights at Buffalo Wild Wings, and then at halftime, they would choose one winner to win an exclusive. You and 10 people can ride in a limo to the next week's Monday Night Football game. You get like $150 tab, and at the end of the year, at the last Monday night game, they pull all your names out of a hat, and the last three winners would win 3 grand prizes, and one of them was like an electric rocking chair of your local teams, which was the Ravens, because I live here in Baltimore. The second one was a Super Bowl party for you and 20 people and $1,000 food tab. And the grand prize winner, you and one person, got a trip back and forth to New York City and VIP access during the NFL draft and all that. So I won that one year, and then another buddy of mine won it another year and took me with him. And I have to tell you, those two experiences I had at the NFL draft in New York City were amazing. It was so cool. It was absolutely awesome. I enjoyed every second of it. Radio City Music Hall was awesome. The VI, I had the VI. I was a little bit different. I got the VIP access. I can tell you, Dolphins NYC said they miss the draft being in New York City. I understand what the NFL is trying to do, but I can tell you, look, I mean, I guess proof's in the pudding. I mean, Philadelphia and Chicago, when they had the drafts there, if I'm correct, they had over 250,000 people go there.
I went to the one in Chicago, and it was
insane. They said it was an F1 event.
It was probably my favorite NFL experiences, and I've been to 7 Super Bowls. Like, it is one of my favorite. It was one of my favorite all-time experiences, going to the NFL draft in Chicago.
Do you think that every city should get a chance to host? Is that what you think?
Absolutely, they should.
Okay,
100%.
I have to admit, I visited in New York. I thought it was great in New York.
I mean, listen, we travel around to different cities and we go there because it's a new environment. We get to see, the culture surrounding that city, and what better way to bring all the fans, not just for one game, but for the NFL draft, where all the fans can come and experience that. I think that's awesome.
Look, the last question was about revenue and revenue growth, and that was it. And then the press conference was over. I think one of the things for me that I was disappointed in the press conference was the one hardball question he got from Jim Trotter, he didn't answer. I think the other thing that really bothered me, and you brought up a great point, is there are so many FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesar Sports, all these relationships and partnerships now with the NFL. Not one person asked any question about sports gambling or sports betting or how it's affected the game or anything like that. I think that was really upset that didn't happen. And the other thing that I think I would have wanted him or would like more information on is I would like more information on how this multiple day Monday night flex scheduling will be. I want more confirmation. How many days in advance will people get about Monday night flex? I'm not a huge fan of it, but I get why they're trying to do it. They want a better product on Monday night. They want ratings to be better. I get it. I understand it. It's all comes down to the bottom dollar. And most people would rather see, X team versus X team that are in a playoff scenario over, the Detroit. I don't want to say Detroit anymore because Detroit's a good team, but some two bad teams with bad records at the last place of their division. But I think part of the reason I like Monday night is it gave those teams a chance to have national TV coverage where in the past, where normally they wouldn't. So, maybe a team like Jackson. Well, I can't say Jacksonville because they got Trevor Lawrence. I'm trying to think of bad teams in the NFL. I can't think, Houston, right? They don't really have anybody, right? But I think they deserve one primetime a game a year. If you have them on Monday night and they get flexed out and they have no primetime, I think every team deserves at least 1 month primetime game a year. Get a chance to showcase. There are 32 teams in the NFL. They should all have at least one primetime game because there's enough primetime games to go around. The fact that Dallas gets 5 or 6 every year, I get it. There's millions of Cowboys fans all over the place. But those were just 3 things from the I didn't like. Yeah, and then the officiating, his explanation on the officiating was bad. What I think we all kind of see is that this was a very political. He said the politically correct things. He ran away from the hard questions. I didn't think we got any real major answers about anything. Do you agree?
Man, he's a stuffed shirt, and he's employed by the owner, so he's not going to say anything detrimental to the game.
No, I don't think he would. But what level of transparency needs to happen within the game for fans to feel like the product or that the money that they're spending on a week in, week out basis is worth the money that they're spending on?
Why do you think the NFL cares?
Well, not when what did you say? They $2 billion last year?
$2 billion just TV revenue. They did $57 billion in ticket revenue.
That's insane. Insane. That and by the way, we're still not getting into clothes, merchandise, all that other stuff.
100%. Good morning, Banjo.
There are definitely something. This is Miami Sports Music's Clock Blockers #1 Miami fan morning show. There were definitely some things that I just was disappointed in. Let's get into some Dolphins news that I haven't had a chance to touch on you with. #1, Butch Berry was hired as the offensive line coach for the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, there was a bad breakup between him and Denver. Denver players were very happy when he left. This seems to be, there's a huge backlash on social media that, hey, look, 9 offensive line coaches in 10 years. You bring this guy in, his resume isn't that great. But to be fair, you look at it right now, he's somebody who coached with McDaniel for 1 year in San Francisco, knows Mike McDaniel's system, and can help implement that offensive line to the system that he runs and creates. What are your thoughts about Butch Berry being the head coach here? And what did you think of the backlash yesterday on social media?
The optics aren't good, right? I mean, because of his track record and some of the, issues that he's had in the past. You got to trust in McDaniel, I guess. It's and somebody who's, worked with Fangio in the past too. So, the jury's out until we see the games played, right? If he comes in here, the offensive line improves, he does a good job, McDaniel's offense thrives, as the offensive line has a good year, then we could say it's a good hire. But right now it's the middle off season. We can only go by what he had done in the past. Does it really tip the scales for us?
I don't know if it necessarily tips the scales. What I'll say is I think that it plays a part into, the fan, two parts. It's twofold, right? You have a fan's perspective, 9 offensive linemen in 10 years. We've never had a real run game except 08 and maybe 16. We want that big flashy name. We want somebody to come in here and say that, like the Fangio hire was that flashy name. He was great, right? We wanted Mike Munchak here, right? I think we wanted that big offensive line name that we're going to come in here and do it. But the reality of the situation is McDaniel saw a guy who knows his offense and can help implement that offensive line to help maneuver the offense the way he wants to.
I think it's more interesting to see Mike McDaniel hire older coaches and coaches that aren't in his same age bracket. That's the more interesting thing to me.
That's
and
a good thing for me.
And Michael K, I said $5.7 billion, not $57 billion. But anyway, that's the interesting part for me. He's hired a couple old dogs, defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, who's been around the block more than once, and now your offensive line coach he's a veteran coach.
Do you think that's a bad thing? To me, that tells me
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just say it's interesting to me that that's the way he's building his coaching staff.
I think for me that shows me the one thing that the big knock for me that was on the previous coach, that he wasn't able, he had to be the big dog. In my opinion, it looked like he had to be the person that was the smartest guy in the room. McDaniel seems to bring in more. He's seeing now, okay, I got rid of Apple. You bring in Applebaum because of the potential of what he can do. You saw what he did with Boston College. He made that a top 10 run, that was top 10 offensive line in all of college football. And they weren't a top 10 team. They weren't even a top 25 program, but their offensive line was top 10. So you saw that, you bring in somebody like that. Oh, it didn't work out. Maybe I'm better off bringing in people that have more experience. Now, that doesn't necessarily hold true to the Butch Berry situation, but Butch Berry knows his offense. And I think he's understanding, I need somebody in here that knows my offense and can help me move this offensive line to that situation. And that's where I kind of look at the Butch Berry signing. The backlash that was on social media yesterday was absolutely insane.
And
They
from
were
the players.
them.
And from players, from Denver people in Denver that hear things, are closer to the team. That's the thing that's bothersome to me, right?
It is, and so that if this doesn't work out, it 100% goes on McDaniel, right? You then say, hey, McDaniel, you knew what you were getting. McDaniel's playing, he's actually gambling right now. He's basically saying, I get the cons of why you wouldn't want a guy like him here and why players don't want him. I think that I can help him out in that area with the personality and help him be a better coach and personality and learn how to get along and talk with players. But I know what he is good at, and that is coaching, and I know that he can institute this offense that I'm doing. So he's gambling that he's going to be able to help, Butch Berry the same way Butch Berry is going to help institute this offensive game. But if it doesn't work out, I don't think it's on Butch Berry. Well, you knew what you were getting with him. It's on McDaniel for it not working out.
Because he hired Butch Berry, right? So if it didn't work out, it's ultimately on McDaniel, 100%.
100%. Another thing that happens tonight, it goes down the NFL honors at 9 p.m. tonight, and Zach Thomas could be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts about Zach Thomas maybe getting elected?
It's his time. It's his time. It's his time. It has to be his time. Because if he does not get elected tonight, man, it's going to be an uproar. There really is. I mean, he is the candidate. He is the person who is most deserving on that list of balloteers.
100%. I think he is. We went down and we looked at these particular. I want you to give me 5 names on this list that you think will be elected tonight.
I think we went through this again, right? Like Darrelle Revis, Dwight Freeney. So for me, it starts with Darren Woodson. I think it's another player that you have to consider heavily is Devin Hester. And then there's the conundrum of, besides Zach Thomas, like Zach Thomas to me is got to be in there. But you've got Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, and Andre Jackson, who are all phenomenal wide receivers. Like their stats, you go up and do the research on them, they're all deserving. Then you have Dwight Freeney, who basically was the best defensive end in the league for 2 or 3 years. Is that enough? I don't think so. Same for Jared Allen. DeMarcus Ware in that same boat. So for me, it's and Joe Thomas really, like, he retired early. He was the he was a number 1 draft pick. Is he Hall of Fame worthy? I don't know, man. I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Let me put it to you that way.
I don't think Dwight Freeney is. I think the only one that is Joe Thomas.
I don't think Joe Thomas is. He's not a first balloter. But Darrelle Revis basically was the best cornerback in football for quite a few years, right?
If you had to say out of the Dwight Freeney, Darrelle Revis, and Joe Thomas, one of them will get elected tonight, who do you think it would be?
Revis.
Really? I think it'd be Joe Thomas. I think Joe Thomas would be. Look, this playing what's the word? This playing on bad football teams and stuff like that. Like I think that's I don't want to hear that anymore. Like a player, the Hall of Fame is used for Hall of Fame individuals, not Hall of Team. I get he played on some bad Cleveland Brown teams, but the man started every game for 10 years, made the Pro Bowl numerous times, and was the best at his position easily 6 or 7 of those years, if not more. So I think Joe Thomas is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I look at this
argument, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was.
Yeah, but the one person that I question is Devin Hester. I think he deserves, and I want him to get in. But he's a unique circumstance, right?
He's very unique, right? He was the best kick returner, punt returner. He changed games, right? Is that enough to warrant a Hall of Fame gold jacket?
Not
I
only
think it
did he
is because
change the game, he changed a position.
he was such a superior athlete, and to your point, he changed the position. He changed he changed the game, right? He changed the game moving forward. He changed the way special teams utilize special teams. Like when you play the Chicago Bears with Devin Hester was back there, like he was a threat to score a touchdown every time he touched the ball. And so you kicked away from him, you squib kicked it, and he got less and less touches because of who he was and how he changed the game. To me, that's Hall of Fame worthy.
100%. 100%. All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. I just had somebody get 9 blocks, and I updated it while you were talking. So right now, huh?
9
blocks. So $25 per block. Portion of the proceeds will go towards the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. So get your box, buy it on Cash App or PayPal using MSM Podcast Network, and Cash App, the $ in front of it. When you send your money, make sure you put your name and the box number in there. These are the box numbers that are available. Cam, I know you had originally given me 45, but Scott had sent it in before you had given me 45, so I put you in 46. And so right now we're all caught up. This is updated. $25 per block. Super Bowl's on Sunday. The moment this thing gets full, I'm going to come on live and I'm going to do the drawing 0 through 9 for each box.
Man, you better fill this thing up. Let's
go.
I know. You're going to be filling it up.
We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. It's gonna get there. Get your boxes now, people. Get them. All right. One other thing that's gonna happen tonight is NFL Fan of the Year will be announced. Our very own Allie, aka Dolph Freaky, is up for Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan. What are your thoughts about this? And it's pretty exciting, right?
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. And our girl Dolph Freaky, Allie Goodman's up there. I saw her and Jarrett got on the plane this morning.
Yep.
How freaking exciting it must be for them to experience this as our man NorCal did last year, or Ian Berger the year before that, or vice versa. You know, they're all worthy fans. And I'm sure every city has a worthy fan that they think it's going to be in. But, you know, Dolph Freaky's our girl, and we're pumping it up for her. And hopefully we did everything that we could to get her the fan vote.
Yeah, 100%. I said this morning on the show. I said, you know, one thing that Dolphin fans do is they vote. They go out and vote. You know, Tua got the votes and you know, consistently, and they will go out there and make sure Tua was the leading vote getter with the fan vote this year. And so you know, I think that we did the same thing. One of the things we looked at is Allie's social media presence is larger than anybody else's that won Fan of the Year this year. And I think Dolphin fans went out and voted for her religiously. I looked at social media pushes for Fans of the Year for other teams. I didn't see anybody do a big media push the way that we did. Solo D went up and did his whole thing, and, you know, ourselves, we were like, let's go. And so I think that's really cool. I hope that she gets it. It'll be so cool to see if she gets it. And she's definitely deserving of it. I think it'd be awesome to see.
It'd be awesome. But you know what? Did you watch that Rihanna video where they did all the
stay? Yep. I did.
That wasn't good.
So she knows the Buffalo Bills guy, and we were talking. He's funny, man. That Buffalo Bills fan. I got to give him his credit. He's a funny guy. I like him. One of the other things that kind of went down before we wrap up here, we got about 15 minutes left in the show. NBA trade deadline. Just curious to get your thoughts about the NBA trade deadline. Miami Heat not really making any moves. They got rid of Dwayne Dedmon. I thought that they were going to make a move, and maybe they tried, but they definitely didn't get anything. The trade deadline's at 3:00. D'Angelo Russell heading to the Lakers. Kevin Durant headed to the Suns. Kevin
Durant heading to the Suns
is huge.
Monumental.
Yep.
And watching Kyrie Irving last night play in Dallas, I was upset that, you know, Kyrie, you know, that and maybe, Pat Riley tried that. Kyrie didn't end up in Miami, but I also know that, the Brooklyn Nets weren't going to trade him to a conference team. But, having him and Luka on the same backcourt, are you kidding me?
Insane.
And to see what the Phoenix Suns can roll out now with Durant. I mean, Durant is legitimately, a top 50 all-time player in the NBA. Like, legit top 50 all-time player.
I'll say this, Cameron. I think the NBA Finals preview this year will be the Phoenix Suns versus the Boston Celtics. That's what I think the NBA Finals will be this year.
It's easy to think that. I can understand how you get to that conclusion.
Let's talk Miami real quick. We're a Miami show. What happened? Like, do you think
the contracts the players the positions they need to improve at, right, is point guard, and in the middle, someone to back up Bam a little bit, with scoring. Dedmon wasn't a scorer. He's a rebounder, and he's a good defender. But he also wore out his welcome when he threw that the medical device out on the massager out on the court. But, and they have two young good Sunners, Robinson and Yurtseven. If Yurtseven can get back, those guys are better than Dedmon. So they're not hurting there so much, but they needed somebody else who could score from the middle. I think, and so much this team relies so much on Bam that they could have used some help in that regard. But the contracts of the players that they, like Lowry and D-Rob, like Lowry's guaranteed $26.5 million next year. And with his knee issues and declining play, there's not a team that's going to go take that on unless you're giving up something of value, like the first pick, the Jovic, who the Heat have, who's a really good young player, or Max Strus. And believe me, those two players are too important to the future of the team. D. Robinson is the same way. He had one good year, and you give him a 5-year, contract. Who's going to touch that? The guy hasn't, shot well or even played because of a wrist or hand.
You put that on Pat though. That's got to be Pat Riley. He's got to do a better,
100%. It's on Pat.
Yeah, it's on Pat, right? And because I gotta be honest, man, I was disappointed that the Heat. Now look, 3:00 isn't here yet. Maybe something can happen in the final hour, but who else is out there? Number one.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Toronto is shopping their I can't even say his name, Ojanabi, who's an awesome defensive and offensive threat. He's a young guy, but it's going to take you giving up Hero and some, probably something else to get him. And I don't think the Heat are willing to give up Hero unless it's for somebody that's going to change the trajectory of the franchise. And there really isn't anybody else out there. What move I do expect them to make is for them to it's been rumored that Westbrook is going to get bought out of his contract by Utah, when he'll make him a free agent. And so I expect maybe the Heat go after him. But listen, Westbrook isn't a quarter of the player he used to be, when he was with Oklahoma. He can give you.
Think Westbrook could help the Heat in the East?
He can give you 10 minutes off the bench. Like he is 10 to 12 minutes of good defense. He still has the athleticism to get to the rim, but he doesn't play good exterior defense. He plays better one-on-one inside the lane, which really he's not better than Oladipo. He's not better than Vincent. So, his minutes are going to come from where?
Does Kyle Lowry get traded?
Just for the reason I said I don't think he does because of his contract.
Jimmy Butler stating yesterday in a press conference, he's like, Kyle's not going anywhere. So
pretty much agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I'll say this. I was very disappointed with the Heat lack of moves. I blame Pat. I think the Heat are in the position they're in because of some of the contracts that kind of handcuffed them and Pat not really being able to either make a difference or trade or whatever. But I think that I don't even think they're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals this year. And not with the roster that they currently have. I mean, and even if they were, by some miracle, to come out of the East, right? I mean, they're not beating anybody in the West. No way. The West is either going to have Phoenix, Dallas, or Golden State. You know,
the one thing the Heat do better than anybody is play team defense. So, as long as they play, really good team defense, and listen, you got Jimmy Butler and Bam that can, both of them can take over a game. So I wouldn't say that they won't be in the NBA Finals because there's that possibility for the style of game they play. But
they did go 7 with their current roster almost as is against Boston.
And missed one shot that would have put them in. So listen, they have the team to make a run. It's just improbable.
I'd like to see some crazy. I think Russell Westbrook could be somebody that could help move the needle a little bit. And playing against Boston, I think
you got to get Oladipo healthy. You got to get Lowry healthy, and you got to start hitting shots. Like D-Rob and Strus haven't been playing good outside 3-point shooting this year. But they do have a good team. Like they can make some waves. It's just going to be difficult.
All right, real quick, want to bring this up while I got you on here. You're a big you like the U. You're a big U guy. Football team losing coaches and losing recruits left and right. What's going on right now at the University of Miami? Why are they losing coaches and recruits?
I didn't. So I just saw that Charlie Strong's leaving, but I don't understand. I don't know why. I haven't read the article yet. But they are gaining recruits too. So I'm not so much worried on the recruiting part of it. But I am curious as to why some of these coaches are leaving. And have they hired an offensive coordinator yet?
I'm not sure on my end. I'm trying to get Alex Dano on to talk a little bit about it here in the next day or two, either tomorrow or early next week, because I just, we all want the University of Miami to be up there in college football's top tier programs, but they're just not right now. And for some reason, when they take a step forward, they take a step back, or they take 2 step forwards, they're still a step back. And I'm not exactly sure. I get that the NIL has changed everything. And the matter of how college football is run and played and just everything. And I understand that we've tried to do a decent job of that here at the University of Miami. They're one of the top NIL, they've signed people to the most money, some of the most money in all of college sports. But I don't know what happened. I don't understand why they can't seem to find themselves as a top tier program in college football when they have all the resources and they have pretty much everything you need.
They don't have all the resources. And I'll tell you, until they get their own stadium on campus, they're always going to be second tier.
Really? You believe that?
100%. 100%. Like there is zero attraction for somebody to come to the U and then have to play at Hard Rock Stadium.
Dolphin Don says Miami's a better basketball school than football now.
100% they are. Jim Larinaga, and they play on campus.
Yep.
But Jim Larinaga is a coaching legend, and he's got those boys playing. Like they're my dark horse Final Four team. And speaking of a team that nobody's talking about here in South Florida, FAU is nationally ranked, and I think they're 23-1.
I know they're really good. They're really good. March Madness is going to be fun this year. We're gonna do some college March Madness stuff here on the program. We're trying to get some people involved. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last thing to kind of talk about before we wrap up for the day. There's actually 2 things. One more thing. Baseball, man. Pitchers and catchers report here in the next couple of weeks.
Dude,
excited?
Games played in 18 days.
I know. Are you excited? And the World Baseball Classic too.
The World Baseball Classic here in Miami. I'm so excited.
Are you going to go?
What's that?
Are you going to go to some games?
Absolutely, man. Have you seen those rosters? By the way, the rosters get unveiled tonight. which is
maybe we'll
really
we'll talk a little bit about that. You should come on for a little bit tomorrow, just for 10-15 minutes to talk about the rosters getting unveiled tomorrow.
If I do, it'll be from the car. I'm headed to Orlando. My daughter's got a swim meet in Orlando this weekend. But anyway, baseball's back. It's Fan Fest at Lone Depot Park for the Marlins Saturday afternoon. It's free. If you guys don't have anything to do Saturday afternoon, go down to Lone Depot Park. Miami Marlins Fan Fest is so much fun. Listen, they've never played on campus. They played down the street. Give me a freaking break. But they were in Miami. They were in the neighborhood. But to be, halfway to, Broward County or on the Broward County line is a disservice. What do you say? I'm not allowed to get.
You're not allowed to get excited about baseball until you pledge allegiance to one team. I'm over this Marlins nonsense. It ends today. Look, I'm a Orioles and Marlins fan, and they both suck.
I'm a diehard Cubs fan.
Okay, look, the Marlins have a top 5 pitcher in all of baseball, so that's real.
I will tell you this, noob, and everybody else listening. The Marlins are playing in the toughest division in Major League Baseball, right? On paper. But you guys need to do your homework and understand how the Marlins are built this season in regards to the new rules changes. No shift.
Bases are bigger this year.
So it reduces the path from base to base by, I think, 5 inches, which is a whole lot.
I don't know how I feel about the bases being bigger.
So it's really cool. I think you're going to love it because the style of game that's going to be produced is really conducive to how the Marlins roster is built. And what they did in the offseason, it's really interesting to me.
And y'all need to realize that means the difference between an out from the shortstop or third base. That's the difference. Though that can mean everything. That the bases being bigger. We've seen a million replays where it's like the base is here and the foot is here, and you're like, that you can clearly see is not touched down. But imagine the base now being shorter. That's a difference. That makes a difference.
Well, it makes a difference because of the style of game in conjunction with another rules change, meaning which is that the pitcher can only challenge the base runner by either stepping off or throwing over twice during an at-bat. So let's say hypothetically you have a base runner on first base. You're the pitcher. You step off. That's 1. You throw over. That's 2. Now, if you choose to throw over again, and you're not successful in picking them off, that runner automatically gets second base.
What?
Yes.
That's a new rule change?
Yes.
Boy, the independent league's been real busy with some of these rule changes, boy.
So what that means is that base stealing is back in a big way.
Does that count as a base stolen for the runner, though?
That's a great question. I don't know that. But it's a great question. But in conjunction with the base paths, in essence, being smaller. Oh, noob, stop it. The base paths being shorter, meaning point A to point B will take less time, and a half a second is a long time. You can never pull my fan card. You know why? Because I was there for Game 7. That's me. Game 7. Cleveland, 2016. There.
Did you cry?
Hell yeah, I cried.
I would have cried too. The Dolphins win a Super Bowl. I'm crying.
Hell yeah, I cried. You know why I cried? Because I was starting to worry at my age whether I'd ever see the Cubs win a championship. It'd been 108 freaking years.
So somebody made the joke yesterday or this week that I think Jason was on the show on Tuesday, and 56 more years till 108 years for the Dolphins. It was Crypto who had said it, and I was like, holy cow, I don't know if I can wait another 56 years for a Miami Dolphins Super Bowl win. I would be so upset if that happened.
But you know what? I've got a buddy that runs a podcast about the Marlins. We should have him on one day.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to have him on, man. All right, man. Last thing, man. Just something little cool that I thought was cool, and I just wanted to just briefly talk about it. The Super Bowl logos. Okay.
Yeah.
These are the Super Bowl logos from 1 all the way up till last season. Doesn't have this season's up there. But if you noticed in 2009, they got rid, which by the way, that one in 2009 was here in Miami. That is the Indianapolis Colts Chicago Bears Super Bowl. And that was here in Miami where Devin Hester ran it back and ran the opening kickoff for a touchdown. I was looking at this along with some of the old fields of how they used to do the Super Bowl, how they used to put the old school AFC and NFC logo in the helmets and stuff. I want them to bring that back to the Super Bowl fields. They don't have it for this year, but I want them to bring it back. And I'm over this generic Super Bowl logo look. I like how they used to make it unique to the city that they're playing in. What do you think?
I kind of like
and do any of these ring a bell for you? You've been to 7 of them.
I like the last few of them. I like the look with the trophy in the middle as they eye. I don't know. Does it really make a difference for me? It doesn't. The one from 1985 looks like a Dos Equis label.
It does look like a Dos Equis label, no doubt about that. The ones that kind of stick out to me that you can just tell are from obviously the XXXI in 1996, that's New Orleans.
What's the worst one? The worst one to me is 2005.
2005. Yeah, that's very generic. I think that was a Patriots Super Bowl, actually. It's funny because I know that some of these are Miami. Like 2000 was Miami. Actually, no, 2000 was New Orleans, if I'm correct. Was it Miami or New Orleans? I know 2006 was Miami and 2009 was Miami. 2004, I think, was San Diego. But some of these, they're synonymous with some of Cap for Life says Super Bowl 25 logo was dope. I don't know. It was something that I saw and it just made me think that, different Super Bowls, the 1999 Super Bowl obviously was good too. There's some really good Super Bowls that happened. Are you excited for this Sunday?
I am, man. I'll be defending my chili cook-off crown. I just picked up the sausage. That's what I was doing this morning. I had to go run and get my provisions for my chili.
So where are you watching the game and who are you watching the game with?
A friend's house. It's an annual party.
Oh, breaking news. Jay Crowder are trading. They just got the Brooklyn Nets just got Jay Crowder in a trade from Phoenix.
Yeah.
They are now trading him to Milwaukee for 5 second-round picks.
Jay Crowder for 5 second-round picks. Jay Crowder was a good player in Miami, and I kind of miss him.
Boston Celtics are acquiring shooting big man Mike Muscula from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay, depth piece.
Yep. Go ahead though about the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, I just saw that breaking news.
No, I did watch it at a friend's house. We do a chili cook-off. There's like 40 people, about 10, 12 different chilies, and it's a pretty big deal. It's fun. What are you doing?
My son's birthday is on Sunday, so he has like a detailed list of what he wants to do all day. So we're like going to a jump zone and we're going out to lunch and then to dinner. But I told him, I was like, look, I love you, son, but at 6 o'clock, there's this thing called the Super Bowl, and your birthday does not trump the Super Bowl. I love you, but I don't care what we do till 6 o'clock. But at 6 o'clock, we're in front of the TV watching the Super Bowl. And so he knows his birthday does not trump the Super Bowl. I'm a horrible father. It's funny. He wrote a list, like an itinerary of what he wanted to do. And he's like, Dad, if you notice, at 6 o'clock, I have us back at home to watch the Super Bowl because I know you don't want to miss the Super Bowl. And I want to make sure that you watch it on my birthday. And I was like, you make so proud, kid. I'm like, who has an itinerary for his 9-year-old birthday? But
my daughter swim meet this weekend, right? And her last event is at 9:22 Sunday morning.
We're in the car as soon as it's over. No ands, ifs, or buts. Not procrastinating.
You're not even taking a shower. You're going to be dripping wet in the truck. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay. 3 hours back to where is it? 3 hours? Is that the drive for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go. Come on. Stop talking to your friends.
Let's go, sister.
Hey, look, if you obviously I want to get these boxes sold. So again, if you do not have a box, get a box. It's $25. Do it on Cash App or PayPal, MSM Podcast Network. I'll even drop the Cash App and PayPal links for you. Get up all up in those boxes. The numbers are still there. Make sure you get your boxes, man. Get your boxes. There's a lot of them left. Let's go. Tomorrow is Spread Kindness Friday. Jason Sarney will be on with me all day. And I will promise to open up the platform for you guys to talk about. We'll review if the Heat made any trades, obviously. And maybe we'll go over a little bit of those. He's not a big baseball fan. I'll wait for you to come back next week, and then we'll go over the World Baseball Classic rosters. We'll do that next week on the show on Thursday. Anything else?
I'll be in Boston on Thursday.
Are you gonna be able to do the show?
I'll be in New York Tuesday and Wednesday, Manhattan.
Just traveling the world, man.
I'm working Thursday. I'll be in Boston, back on Friday.
Do you want me to get Jason to do Thursday and you do Friday?
I might be able to do Thursday. I'll be flying Friday morning, so I doubt I'll be able to do Friday at all. So I might be able to do Thursday morning for an hour or so from my hotel, especially if we get on at 9.
Noob says, no, we took a vote. No more panels until Wednesdays. Sorry.
I'm down with that.
But y'all don't get into it. I had a low number of people today and nobody really donated. So, I mean, it helps when there's panels and people donate and they get involved. Those things help, Noob. Okay? They help.
Tomato can Noob.
Tomato can Noob. Hope y'all enjoyed the show today. It was a lot of fun. Tonight, 9 p.m. on NFL Network or Peacock. Watch NFL Honors to see our girl, Allie, hopefully get NFL Fan of the Year. Make sure y'all watch it. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Should be a lot of fun. Cameron, anything before you go?
What else do you got? Who's on tonight for Miami Sports Music?
Tonight is Thursday. Nobody on tonight, I think.
Right on.
So
I thought Batman was on tonight.
Batman's usually on Wednesdays. He took yesterday off. He'll be back next week.
No, right on. Shout out to Batman. Go check his show out. That's all I got, man. Have a good week. I'm looking forward to this. Hey, we didn't even talk about
yesterday. What?
I got the Eagles.
Oh, dude, I'm going Kansas City Chiefs.
All right.
I'm gonna go Kansas City Chiefs. You're going Eagles.
I'm going to Eagles. Tamaris is in LA. God knows what she's doing. I'll get a pick from her.
I love you, brother. You're the man.
Have a great day.
Wayne Johnson, time to be the people's champ. Hit them with the people's elbows, stick together like it's Velcro. You think you could stop us? Hell no, all day I dream about sports. I think I need some chateau, custom with some darkest colors, just to let them know we here. Yeah, I know the whole city riding. A little early, it's a bit surprising. Business moves, now we enterprising. Switch it up, now we improvising. Go to get in the winter column. Whole squad been trained to go. Vince for life, we throw the foe. Singing this just to welcome bro. To a time, to a time. Time to grind, time to shine. To a time, to a time.